All right, good evening, everyone. This is the Town of Fairfield Conservation Commission acting as the Inland Wetlands Agency of May, agenda of the May 1st, 2024. I'll take roll. Thomas, I'm here. Richard Boucher is here. Jay Fain is here. Peter Hood is here. Ted Luxinger is here. And Diane Saunders is here. Hello. If there's anybody up there that I, or us, nope. Okay. And I will appoint both Ted and Diane tonight. Okay. Moving on to Roman numeral 3, approval of the draft meeting minutes, the Inland Wetlands Agency meeting of April 3rd, 2024. Do the commissioners have any questions or corrections? Nope. Okay, and the Inland Wetlands Special Site Walk meeting, April 17th, 2024. Anybody have any questions or corrections? Okay, can we approve both?
Make a motion, we approve.
And second, Ted, all in favor? Aye. All right. Moving on to Roman numeral 4, public hearing. Number 1. One's continued. WP-24-0005 Land Tech 845 Mill Hill Terrace, map 228, parcel 16. 5-lot residential subdivision with associated infrastructure within a regulated area. Decision may be made if the hearing is completed or the hearing may be continued. The original 35-day public hearing timeframe to complete the hearing ends May 8th, 2024. A 65-day term extension may be provided by the applicant, so further public hearing continuations to July 12th, 2024 are possible. Potential continuation date is June 5th, 2024. And if the hearing is completed, the agency shall make a decision within 35 days. And staff recommends approval with condition. Is anybody, hello?
Okay, so
Yes.
for the applicant, I'm Brian Carey, professional wetland scientist for Land Tech. With me is Andy Samilides. For Land Tech, we're here on behalf of Maplewood Senior Living. We were here last month. We were having a little bit of technical issues because of the thunderstorm. We did get comments from some of the commission members. We have addressed those comments. Unfortunately, we were just able to submit the plans today, which is obviously not enough time for the commission members to review it. We do understand that the last day for the hearing would be May 8th. We are asking for an extension to the next meeting. We will be submitting these updated plans. We have submitted them electronically. And if you want, we can go through them tonight, or if you want, we can do that next month. And the comments were related to some concerns around the steep slopes on 3 of the lots that were along the north side of the property. We did address that by proposing a conservation easement along the steep slopes of the property so that no trees or grading could be done in that area. There's also a drainage pathway that would go off in that area where we're going to cover that in stormwater drainage easement in favor of the town. And we also did mark all the trees that are planned to be removed. We also updated individual site plans to show that the drainage is feasible once the lots come back, individual lots come back for individual permits. Right now, the plans are just for the subdivision of the land and the construction of the road, which is a compliant subdivision under the planning and zoning regulations. The town engineer did review the road design and stormwater drainage and did not have any, had only minor comments. The same was true with Emmeline Harrigan's review. We addressed those comments, so that has been all set. So I would just like to submit these into the record, and then we can come back next month. We do have an extension up into 65 days, which would actually be into July if needed.
We don't have a July meeting.
You don't have a July meeting,
So that would be our,
we get this wrapped up maybe next month. I'll work with staff to get comments If the commissioners have any comments, they can obviously submit them through staff. We can address those
Okay.
prior to the next meeting.
Commissioners, you okay with that? Sure. All right, perfect. So we're good.
So I'll just put this into the record. Yeah. And we'll follow up. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to number 2. WP 24-0014, William Kenny Associates LLC, 430 and 452 Stilton Road, map 76, parcel 45 and 44. Demolish existing dwelling at 430 Stilton Road and construct 19 4-story single-family townhouse buildings grouped in 4 buildings with associated site work within a regulated area. Decision may be made if the hearing is completed, or the hearing may be continued. The original 35-day public hearing timeframe to complete the end ends June 5th, 2024. A 65-day time extension may be provided by the applicants. Further public hearing continuations to August 9th, 2024 are possible. The potential continuation date is June 5th, 2024. If the hearing is completed, the agency shall make a decision within 35 days. The application, as noted by the staff, seems to be incomplete. Staff recommends the applicant provide more information for consideration. Now, this is the first time down. Do you want me to open the public hearing? Do you want to talk, or I'll be more than happy to.
Chair, my thought was that we could get started on a presentation. We have Bill's here, and then Jason Edwards is on the line.
Okay.
So we could at least get into it and it'd be helpful because I'm sure you're gonna have comments, so then we could take comments. We're gonna get comments from staff, and then we can come back in June
Okay.
and wrap it up, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure. Motion to open into public hearing? Yep. Make a motion. Motion, okay, second, anybody? Rich? Second? Okay. All in favor? Yay, okay. So we're in public hearing.
Chairman, members of the commission, good to be before you here tonight. Chris Russo with Russo and Rizzio LLC, offices at 10 Sasco Hill Road in Fairfield, here on behalf of the applicant for the properties at 430 and 452 Stilson Road. Just to orient you, we have Bill Kenny with us here, and then on the line is Jason Edwards, who is our engineer on this project. J. Edwards Associates is our engineering firm on this project. And so just to orient you, 430 and 452 Stilson Road, these are 2 separate lots. They currently have single-family dwellings on them. There's one right here, and then there's another right here. And you've probably driven by this site 1,000 times. There's a small office building right here to the north, the Dolan Building. And then just a little bit north of that is Little Pub. On the back end is the parking lot for the shopping plaza that's got Old Navy. And there's a medical office building that's over here kind of diagonally. And then down here on your southern end is where it starts to transitioning to residential. And so we went to P&Z. I had a pre-app with them on a conceptual review to discuss a multifamily development, a DRD. It's probably something you've had before or heard before, designed residence district that would allow in total 20 units on the site. Bill will get into the wetlands, but just so you know, while I'm going through this, there are wetlands located here at the very rear of this long, you can see this property stops here, and then this property is a lot deeper. At the very back end of this, there are wetlands, and you can see our regulated area line. So I'll turn it over to Jason Suba. I just wanted to run through kind of the basics of the layout before he gets into some of the technical details. So the proposal is for multiple buildings, again, totaling 20 units. Right now it's 2, and then there would be an addition of 18 on top of that. What's going to happen is what's proposed, I should say, is there's a dwelling here that would be demolished, and then there's another dwelling on the southernmost property, which is to remain. Kind of preserve, again, we're trying to transition from the residential that's down here up into the commercial corridor. So we're going to maintain that unit right here and then construct these multifamily buildings around it. Similar, you've probably seen like down on Reef Road, next to where the old 7-Eleven is. There was a couple properties down there that recently got developed. Similar type of look and feel. So you have building up front. This is a 7-unit building. Then you have a 5-unit building here that kind of runs along the back of this rear property line. And then you have 4 units back here. And then down at this other kind of flag end down here is a 3-unit building. 1.5 units of that are within the regulated area. The entrance is going to be right turn in off of Stilson Road, and then it'll wrap around the site, right, or these buildings right here in the middle, and then exit back out here. The nice thing about it, this layout, is this will have minimal traffic because it's just for these 3 units. The main traffic for the site is going to happen in here. Also, one of the things that we've done in working on these plans, originally we had some off-street parking back here, back in this corner. In working with zoning, we were actually able to relocate that up to the front, up along Stilson Road, so get it away from the regulated area. There's also some parking that's going to be along right here, a few spaces there, again, outside the regulated area. The other thing which you might notice is a difference from your plans. Originally, we were looking at alternatives and what we could do in the regulated area, and we had proposed a dumpster enclosure back here in the regulated area. In working with zoning, again, that Reef Road project, we did something similar. In talking with them, we were able to eliminate that dumpster area. So this plan that you see, and I have the sets here that I can hand out to you, so you can take it home with you. But that dumpster enclosure area is removed, and all these units, like a typical home, they will roll out their trash, and there'll be private trash pickup to all these different units. So it'll be all within their buildings. There's no outside dumpster enclosure area. It's a lot better situation, having people bring their trash all the way back here, and just the threat of people overloading a dumpster and stuff. It's a much better solution now. Be able to eliminate that. It increases the buffer area, and it leaves here the drainage that Jason will go through, but also just these 2 units. So that's a basic layout of it. Again, this area right here is basically staying the same. This is an existing garage. This is an existing dwelling. And Bill's going to walk you through all the plantings and everything. But just to orient you, this is kind of the basics of the proposal. And with that, I will turn it over to Jason, because Jason's going to run through his engineering plans.
Good evening. For the record, Jason Edwards, J. Edwards Associates Engineers Surveyors. We're located at 227 Stepney Road in Easton. And Chris did a good job hitting on the basic layout here, so I'll kind of run through the drainage. The site now, if you look at the existing condition survey, the topography all slopes down from Stilson Road, and everything drains down to the wetland on the western boundary, the lower end of the site where the wetlands are. Everything on the site drains down to there. So we're also now redirecting all the runoff back to that same wetland. To do so, we've got a series of catch basins that run down each travel driveway here, or one down the center aisle between the larger buildings, and then a couple catch basins down farther on the lower part of the site, on the southwest part of the site. The catch basins all drain, and that they capture all of the impervious runoff from the parking areas. Those are all captured into catch basins and go through a hydrodynamic separator, which then passes through the large stormwater infiltration area in the back, which then discharges out to a level spreader, just just east of the wetlands. The roofs are all captured into separate drainage systems. There's one larger, sort of medium-sized system, I guess you could say, on the northwest side of the site that captures the roof runoff from the 3 larger buildings in front. That then is outletted down around behind the building with units 8 through 12 and discharges out to a level spreader on the northern side of the northwest rear corner there. And there's also then a third smaller infiltration system directly behind units 13 through 15. And that is just for the roofs there, and that discharges into that same level spreader as the other roof system. So the drainage all discharges back down just to the same wetland. Sanitary sewers on this project, there's sanitary sewers out in Stilson Road. This is the site all pitches down from the street, so there is going to have to be a pump. Right now we show a single pump station to feed back out. That may be changed to individual pumps per building. We're looking at the feasibility of that, but all in all, it'll be pumped out some fashion up back to Stilson Road and then discharged into the sewers there. Obviously, the site's serviced by public water. There is a soil and erosion control plan as well as narrative in the plan set. We've got silt fences along the rear, I believe double silt fences in back, and a series of stockpile areas, temporary sediment basins to use during construction. And there's narratives on sheet 4.1, which go through those details and maintenance and whatnot. I think that is the gist of my plan. If there's anything specific question-wise, I'm happy to answer. Otherwise, I'll pass it off to Bill and Chris.
And I didn't know, commissioners, location-wise, was there anything he mentioned that wasn't clear where it was located, or because I could clarify that if need be.
Pictures, do you have any? Yeah. You do?
To Jason,
No, not for, yeah, for, who's the design professional? Who's the engineer?
Jay Edwards Associates, yeah.
Who's the engineer?
Jason.
Jason is an engineer or a surveyor?
I'm a surveyor, but the engineer in my office is the one who signed this. So I've got 4 of them in the
That's
office.
what I'm asking. Who's the engineer?
Who's the Jason? Who's the engineer in your office?
Larry Edwards signed on this plan, but yeah, he's the one who signed this.
Okay, and that, is there any reason why the plans aren't signed and sealed?
No. I mean, that just was an oversight. So we're happy to sign them.
So you're testifying as the surveyor?
I'm testifying as my capacity as the principal of the company. So I've got 30 years of experience in engineering. I've got.
Just asking.
No, the engineers, it's been reviewed. It's,
Yes, it's all been reviewed.
it's Jay Edwards
I just want
Associates.
to have it on the record.
Sure.
Commissioners, any other questions about engineering? Nope, not engineering. Okay.
Then I'll turn it over to Bill. There you go.
I am Bill Kenny, the principal of William Kenny Associates in Fairfield. I'm a professional wetland scientist, soil scientist. We've been retained to help with this project in both identifying and assessing workhorse resources that may be on or off the site. So to assist with the project design, that it put together in a way, designed in such a way that protect the wetlands. And we also were involved with actually designing a management plan. So what I'd like to do is briefly go over existing conditions and then proposed conditions related to the wetlands. So on this property, north is up. We have Stilson Road on the right or on the east, and there's Flat Rock Turnpike is just a couple hundred feet to the north. Then all the commercial development right here, north here, and then there's a very large wooded swamp and forest land with some upland as well, immediately west of this property. I was involved with this property 5 to 10 years ago, where a assisted living facility was proposed for these two lots and 2 lots immediately to the south. So I was involved with mapping wetlands at that time as well. And as also at that time, the town hired Tom Petrus to review the wetland mapping and make a determination with regard to the wetland mapping. So there is the line on the left side of this drawing, and I just wanted to let you know, this is the drawing that was submitted to you. This is the drawing that we prepared for the wetland buffer planting. Since then, we've further developed the planting plan for the entire property. And that's what this other plan is. And it reflects the removal of the dumpster that Chris mentioned and additional native plantings between the last unit and the property line.
We have a copy of that?
I've got,
We don't have it in our packet. Right?
that's correct. So I know we received Tim's report, the staff, Tim Bishop's report. I know that Tim had a question about the wetland line on the western side of the.
Yeah, if you want us to cut to the chase, that's our biggest concern. We were out there, we reviewed the property, most of us, not all of us.
There is a couple of conditions out there that are a little bit confusing. There's a wire fence and then a stone wall, and they both run parallel with the property line. The property line is actually in between those two features. So the property line is this side of that wire fence.
So I will tell you my personal observations, and then the commissioners will do their own. Right about where, I'm sorry, I don't know what unit it's 15, unit 15. If I were to stand there, I'm telling you, there was skunk cabbage, it was wet. It looked like I was in the usual wetlands that I see around town. So I was a little surprised to see the map that had the wetland line off the property, and then of course the upland review area. So I know for me, that'll be a concern. I'll let my other commissioners speak as well. And I'm glad you just mentioned that name of Tom Petrus, if it makes it more streamlined to reach out to him again, if he's somebody, I don't know who he is.
Retired and moved to Poland.
Okay. So then that won't work.
Maybe we could pay to have him come back.
But I'm just saying that we might need somebody to look at it for us.
I know the town hired him many years to do third party.
Yeah, okay.
He was very reputable. And skunk cabbage is an obligate species that most of the time, when over 90% when you see it, you're in a wetland, but not all the time.
I'm not, it's a visual versus the map. So that's all I got to work with. So
Sure,
I'm
sure,
not
sure.
like I don't know. So I need to know. And I think some of the commissioners
do.
feel the same way.
But what's the logic of building in that area? What's the simple logic? Are you trying to get an additional unit that you know will need to be taken out?
No.
It's in the protected area, the flag area.
Oh, that's in the regulated upland review area.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's very, very close to
Council,
what we're all
you got it.
concerned about.
A nice project here. It's
Yeah.
a lot of units.
Mhm.
Why are you fighting over that one 15? I mean, if your client removes that, it's a better project from the wetlands perspective.
Well, I mean, and I talked to Bill about this. I mean, if in our understanding again, in Bill's observation is the wetlands all the way out here. So this is just the regulated area. And that there's no impact to the I mean, Bill, you're gonna get into that, but there's no impact from having that right there.
Also, though, look at that whole wetland area. Look at the history of that whole wetland area. Look how over the past 50, 100 years, every development is pushed right at the edge of that wetland area. I'd like to, I'd like to see a little more relief and maybe do some wetland rest. That whole area in the back, in my opinion, is all historic fill. I don't know if you agree with me, Bill, or not, but there's that railroad tie retaining wall, and I believe that's all been, they've been pushing fill in there the years. There's an opportunity here to do some wetland restoration and also create more of a green space for this whole development in that area. So I'm on board with trying to get rid of it.
Commissioner, thank you for giving extra information. Please tell us why you know that. So for the record.
In terms of, well, I'm a certified soil scientist, but right now I'm just testifying as a commissioner and my personal observations.
It's good to know. So the record.
I will say, Mr. Chair, I didn't quite follow you. You were talking about the fence. I'm a little fogged on the boundary. If you could maybe point it out there, it would help a lot. You have pictures from a site walk, but I'm shuffling through them trying to figure out exactly where you're talking about. Feature. So.
Existing wire fence is here.
Okay.
It comes around and there's a stone wall here.
So your property goes there, you're just.
Right, it's technically off our property.
Okay.
So, so I'll just say that, I investigated the property, determined where I believe the wetland line is, pleased to review it with someone else. Particularly, I will say this, over the last 6 months, it has been so wet that in wet years like this, you see skunk cabbage emerge in areas that it doesn't always emerge. And you have we just went through the month of the wettest time of the year, right before the trees leaf out. So there's been quite a bit of land that has water on the surface. You could have water on the surface throughout the winter and not have a wetland. The water needs to be there during the growing season. So there's often, but that doesn't mean it could, maybe we missed something. So
I don't
look
I
at it.
just want you to understand it. Simply, we're lay people.
No, I can appreciate when I see something like that too. We go and look at it, we're like, what's going on here? And we look at it. So we do that. So based on the mapping that we've done and where the wetland is and where the proposed work is, and with the existing conditions of the buffer, and proposed conditions with this development, with the in the short term, the use of soil erosion and sediment control measures to protect this area, the wetland in the short term, and then long term, the stormwater management that Jason and Chris have discussed, with the collection of stormwater runoff from this, collecting it and treating it in accordance with state standards and town standards. And then with the proposed mitigation and the buffer, we are proposing to remove, there's an abundance of debris and trash in this area. As in many areas, there's invasive vegetation, and we're proposing to reforest that area. 30 trees, 30 native trees, roughly 30 shrubs. 12 native evergreen trees. And then establishing a native ground cover through a seed mix. So we're proposing to redo that entire buffer area and then put a demarcation feature, a fence on this edge to provide a demarcation feature and very strongly protect that area in the long run. Beyond that, between the unit and the fence, we have proposed that it be entirely planted between the unit and the fence. That's a relatively narrow area, but to put native ground covers through there and allow for access with a stepping stone path. So with all of that said, with the proposed soil erosion and sediment control measures during construction, stormwater management in the long run, the fact that the buildings aren't in the wetland themselves. I recognize they're in the review area. It is, it's my professional opinion that this can be done in a way that will not adversely impact the wetland based on its design.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any questions?
Oh, I would want to comment that, first thing I saw in this is like, yeah, the dumpsters are in the wetlands, how typical, so,
Not in the wetland.
well, it's not that, but,
It's no longer there.
Yeah, this is what the wetlands are for dumpsters. So I'm glad that somebody
Figured
got to a sense of, yeah, but I would like to see you contemplate, removing that 15 and expanding the buffer. I think it's, it's a dense proposal project that you're proposing here, and it's always nice to have balance and a give back.
We appreciate that comment. Take it very seriously and understand where you're coming from with that.
Commissioners, any questions? Further.
What other presentations are we having?
I guess the other question I have is back for the engineer, and it's from Tim Mello in terms of the infiltration rates and the soil testing. That was actually a big topic on another application we had. So I'd appreciate it if your engineer could review that, the testing and the data, and how robust those systems are going to be. And if you thought of any other LID type of stormwater management, like rain gardens, permeable paver, or any of those type of things, I'd appreciate you comment on those also.
Yeah, well, I'm Jason Edwards for the record. As far as the soils testing goes, we did do testing throughout the site. That data has been included in the latest stormwater report. It was actually, I believe, submitted initially too, but I don't know if it was some sort of miscommunication happened during that process. But so that data has been done. I'll have an engineer, prepare something in response to that, or present at the next hearing to answer those questions more thoroughly.
Would you consider any LID techniques?
Would we? I mean, we would consider them. I don't know how they would fit in the site. It's a tight site. We'd have to give some thought to where they would fit in. Do you have anything in mind that you're thinking of?
Well, I actually, as state law now, that LID have to be included in these type of developments. Permeable pavers, rain gardens, which you have some space in the back possibly for a rain garden. Any of those would be, I think, appropriate on a development like this.
Okay, we'll take that into consideration. Thank you.
I have just counsel, talk to your client. I mean, I'd like to have a third party just look at that area for wetlands. And hopefully for you guys, it comes out to be the same. And if it doesn't, then, that'll be something we'd have to discuss.
Yeah.
That's something I think we should do as on our behalf. We should retain it.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, but I gotta let them know. So that's something I'd like to do.
We would love for the opportunity to be there with them.
Sure.
The staff can be there.
Yeah. So, okay.
Yes, yeah, and again, the location of this unit, Bill went out there, he determined where the wetland line was, and, this unit is in the regulated area. And Bill's opinion is that removing it's not lessening an impact, because there's no impact on it. So we're happy to try to determine if that line is accurate.
Like I started in the beginning, it's the visual. And that's where, when we're 4 or 5 of us were there together, we looked at the map, we had them with us.
Sure.
And we're standing in something that we're like.
Well, you know what we could maybe do, Commissioner, Chair, we could look at trying to stake the corners too. That might help too.
Okay.
Because I'm guessing you might go back out and or at least somebody will come out. So maybe we could stake the corners, and that would help people orient people as to where everything is. Because it is confusing, because this fence swings, I don't know, what is it, 10 feet? It swings out about 10 feet out. Yeah. And, so you think this is the property line. So it's a little It's hard to kind of determine that. So we'll see what we could do to make that clear when somebody's out there on the site.
Okay, very good.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. So, I mean, this is still a public hearing, so I'm gonna go on if you guys are done with, you know, with the public, and then, you know, maybe that'll help with maybe comments that.
More comments, yeah, and then we could come back at the next hearing and respond.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Chair. I apologize, unless you're not done, but it seems like we're comfortable with that. We just need some of our questions answered.
Absolutely.
Is that correct, commissioners?
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, so that folks that are here, that are part of the public, and anybody who might be online, that was the applicant's preliminary application, but we are in a public hearing. So as such, you have a right to come up, and if anybody's here on this application that would like to come up and speak in support of this application, feel free to come up one at a time. You can tell us your name. Your address, thank you, and feel free to give the information that you'd like to. If there's anybody here for this in support, anybody here in support? Anybody online that would like to speak on this application in support of this application? I guess you can raise a hand or something if nobody's doing anything. Okay. All right, so now I will go to anybody who is here one at a time, who is here in opposition of this application. Please come up, give us your name, your address, and you know what you'd like to say, and we'll address that. Anybody here in opposition? Feel free, come on up.
We're right here?
Yep,
Okay.
whichever one is you get to first.
Well, good evening, everybody. My name's John Serio. I live at 62 Pansy Road. Before living at 62 Pansy Road, I lived at 36 Pansy Road. I moved to Connecticut from New York in 1999. And I can tell you right now that this discussion about wetlands, a good portion of my property has been deemed wetlands by the town, and I get a tax break because of that. And a part of the Mill River runs right adjacent to my property. And over the last couple of years, with all the rain that I've seen, the wetlands are coming closer and closer to my home on the property, where more and more of it is unusable. Okay. And the skunk cabbage last year was to the point where I've never seen it before. Okay. My neighbor, Betty Farina, to my right, also owns a big piece of property there, and she's experienced the same thing, where she's seeing water where she's never seen it before. 10 Pansy Road, which is a pretty new building, a home, which was built a few years ago. They had such a huge problem with flooding in their basement that they had to finally get the state, because Stilson is a state road, to allow them to build a drainage from their home, because they had like 3 feet of water in the basement, brand new home. So they were, because when they first built the home, they were out there bailing water out. You could see the water coming down Pansy Road, but then finally they worked something out with the state, and they were allowed to let the water from their basement drain into the sewer system on Stilson Road somehow. I don't know how that exactly worked. But what I'm saying is any additional water, and this development's gonna have pavers, it's gonna have a lot of blacktop, there'll be a lot of surfaces that don't absorb water with these heavy rains that we have. And I'm not sure whether what they're proposing to mitigate, to take care of the excess water is gonna prevent it from going into this wetland, which is huge. It's a gigantic wetland. One of the few remaining wetlands that we have in town. And I'm not totally at ease about that. Okay. I really have concerns about it.
If their calculations, I mean, they have their experts.
I invite you to come out and look at my property.
Well, we were out there for this property, yeah, and we were able to see, over in the back area there, and I figured that's Pansy in the back area.
Yeah.
So if their calculations were to show that the the water is dealt with in the right way, would you still be opposed to this application if?
Yeah, but not for wetland purposes, for other purposes.
Okay, that might be a zoning purpose, but not a wetland. We're only here for that limited thing.
And but nothing, I was in the construction business. I'm a licensed electrician, okay? I've been on many jobs, seen a lot of different types of construction projects. Some of them went as planned and some of them did not. Okay, engineering faults, things that they thought were gonna work. Is there a guarantee that once this is all in place, that it's gonna work? Is it, are we gonna get more and more rain? And is it gonna be able to handle this? Do we have a guarantee about that? I'm concerned about my property.
No, we hear that a lot in other applications too, and unfortunately, there is no guarantee. It's the best scientific evidence that we can have, and that's what they try to present to us. And that's why your testimony here is helpful. So now we've heard the situation on the ground, if you will, there. So thank you for that. Commissioners, any other questions?
Can you spell your last name, please?
SERIO.
Thank you, sir.
And it's 62 Pansy Road.
62, right?
All right, thank you, Mr.
Anybody else here in opposition to this application?
I guess I'm.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anybody online here that would like to speak in opposition to this application? Okay, well, we're not closing it, we're moving on, so thank you.
Chair, thank you, commissioners. We'll be back to your comments.
No, it just stays open.
And we have plenty of time, so
Yeah, we're not, no, it just stays open. When you come back, it's gonna be an open. Because now we're not voting on it, so we haven't done anything. Council. Good evening, Mr. Chief. Sorry, let me just get my bearings again and announce everything. All right, so now we are at number 3 under Roman numeral 4. WP-24-0013, William Kenny Associates LLC, 222 Wilson Road, map 76, parcel 226. Demolish existing dwelling and garage and construct 3-story apartment building with associated sidewalk within a regulated area. Decision may be made if the hearing is completed or the hearing may be continued. The original 35-day public hearing timeframe to complete the hearing ends on June 5th, 2024. A 65-day time extension may be granted by the applicant. So further public hearings can be continued to August 9th, 2024. Potential continuation date is June 5th, 2024. If the hearing is completed, the agency shall make a decision within 35 days. Recommends approval with conditions. And we're not here in July.
You deserve the time off.
Continue, Council. Thank you.
Well, good evening, members of the commission. For the record, my name is John Fallon. I'm an attorney in Fairfield with offices at 53 Sherman Street. With me tonight is my client, Mr. Paul Vimini, who is the owner of the property. Also with me, and you'll be hearing from, is Mr. Jim Rotundo, our engineer on the project, and of course, Mr. Bill Kenny, who has been our environmental consultant with regard to the project. Also here is Pat Rose, who are from Rose Tiso, our architect. Should you have any questions for him architecturally, but what we're going to do tonight is basically have Jim orient you to the site and then review with you our plan for drainage, site engineering and the like. And then Bill's going to make a presentation with regard to his environmental assessment pertaining to impact. The property is 222 Stolson Road. It's 0.72 acres. As you know from the maps that you have, it's bounded by Stilson Road on the east, the shopping center to the south, and Oak condominium development to the north and west. The history of the property from a wetlands perspective is in 1986, under wetlands permit 86-37, which was the Oaks approval, this property was then included as a third phase of the Oaks, I think for 3 units. Those were not built. Subsequently, in 2010, wetlands permit 2010-1109, you approved an application a wetlands permit application for the construction of 2 single-family dwellings on the property. That was not constructed, but it has relevance, as we'll talk about tonight, in terms of the consideration of our application. So as the chair indicates, what we propose to do is demolish the existing residence on the property and construct a 3-story apartment building with driveway and parking areas. And we'll hear about that in a minute. There is no disturbance that is proposed to any wetlands or watercourses, obviously. The property is serviced by a public sewer and municipal water. You have Sarah Misnevsky's staff recommendation. With regard to her recommendations on page 4, with regard to the split rail fence, we are certainly fine with that, and that can be a condition of approval. Her recommendation for invasive species removal and a management plan, we also are fine with, and consent to that as well. And we have no objection, and it can be a condition of approval with regard to the creation of a vehicular maintenance access to that manhole area servicing the private sanitary easement. With regard to her third point, with regard to the engineering department, Mr. Rotundo will comment on that in a minute. Sarah shared with us the comments from the engineering department. We have no problems with any of those, and they could be adopted as part of the conditions of your approval. The one thing that we did have some concern, or at least wanted to discuss with Mr. Santiago of the engineering department, was the recommendation for a hydrodynamic separator instead of a proposed oil and water separator, and the issues of where a discharge would occur to the stormwater system. Mr. Rotundo, as part of his testimony tonight, did meet with his colleague, Mr. Santiago, just to discuss the engineering options with regard to that one specific point. And Mr. Santiago, as Mr. Rotundo will indicate, is looking into that. Suffice it to say, whatever the engineering department ultimately recommends as a final recommendation on that one issue, we will abide by, and we will, that can be a condition of approval. But there is somewhat, as Jim will talk to you about in a minute, an ongoing dialogue between the two engineers about that. The other thing, before I introduce our presenters, I just wanted to discuss with you, because it will be covered in our plan. The staff report recommends and requests an alternatives analysis, and we're going to do that. We have material for you tonight on that. The one thing that I know the commission is aware of, and I just wanted to point out, is under your section 7.6, you have the discretion to ask for, obviously, an alternatives analysis. And you also say that would be mandated when the proposed activity involves a significant impact. That is consistent with Connecticut case law, because Connecticut case law says that in the context of a wetlands application, you get to an alternatives analysis only when you have determined that there are impacts. The legislative intent being, hey, if there are impacts, then we want those minimized. And one of the ways you will minimize them is to show us if you've considered alternatives. So I don't necessarily, respectfully to Sarah, know that an alternatives analysis really is called for here, because I don't think we're having any impact. However, having said that, and in the spirit of the regulations and the staff recommendation, we certainly will provide you tonight with an alternatives analysis. And without stealing Mr. Kenny's thunder, a clear and helpful matter of touchstone there is the 2010 approval, the inland wetlands permit that was approved in 2010, because we think we can demonstrate that if that's an alternative to look at, this proposal that we have will have less impact and more benefits from an environmental and wetland standpoint than the previously approved 2010. So that's basically an overview. And I think what I'd like to do at this time is have, first of all, Mr. Rotundo present to you in terms of site orientation and the drainage plan. Mr. Rotundo.
Good evening. My name is Jim Rotundo. I'm a licensed professional engineer with Career Engineering LLC, with offices located in Shelton, Connecticut. As Attorney Fallon did indicate, the property is approximately 0.72 acres in size. There's currently an existing single-family dwelling, detached garage, and a driveway located on the site. The site generally slopes from Stilson Road toward the rear of the site in a northerly direction. To the north, on the adjacent property, there is an existing pond with associated wetlands. The 100-foot upland review area basically is in the rear portion, the northerly portion of the site. The proposal for this project is the demolition of the existing structures and existing site improvements and the development of a multifamily residential dwelling. Parking is proposed on the ground floor with 2 levels of residential units above that. In total, there are 31 parking spaces, 23 of which are located underneath the building. There are 8 parking spaces located to the south of the building adjacent to Stilson Road. Access into the site will be by 2 driveways from Stilson Road. The building will be served by public water and sanitary sewer, which currently exist in Stilson Road. Those will be extended into the site to serve the building. We have also developed a stormwater management system to reduce the post-developed flows to the pre-developed conditions, including reduction of the 10-year post-developed flows to the 2-year pre-developed condition to satisfy the Conservation Department requirements for that. Our system consists of retain-it stormwater chambers. It's a concrete chamber which will be located underneath the parking area. This will discharge to a level spreader, which is located just off the northwest corner of the building, as well as a high-level overflow pipe for these larger flows. An erosion and sedimentation control plan has also been developed for the site in accordance with the Town of Fairfield requirements and the Connecticut Soil Erosion and Sedimentation Control Guidelines. We did review the engineering comments and we are in agreement to address those. The one item, as Attorney Fallon touched on, is we have 2 floor drains in the parking garage area. The situation with that is we collect those, any runoff, snow drippings, so forth, any water that gets into that parking area. We collect it, we convey it through an oil water separator, and that gets conveyed into the sanitary sewer system. Mr. Santiago had a concern of excess stormwater getting under the building and collecting, which would be put into the sanitary sewer system, which is not a good condition. What's happening here is the driveway, the westerly driveway is sloped out towards Stilson Road. The easterly driveway is sloped down toward the building. We have a trench drain at the perimeter of the building there, but also from the roadway, the grade goes up and then back down into the site. So it's our opinion that any runoff from Stilson Road will be contained within Stilson Road and won't enter the site. Mr. Santiago and I did have a dialogue today, actually it was via email. He did agree that we could review this further. We could show him some additional spot elevations, and if we could alleviate his concerns about that runoff situation, that he would reconsider that comment.
And if he does, as I said, just to emphasize, then that's fine. If he does not, we'll in all likelihood follow all engineering recommendations and we'll stipulate to those conditions of approval. But there's this one open engineering dialogue.
Okay, thanks, Council.
Anything else?
No, that's it, John.
Okay, so
For
I'm
that,
sorry.
Commissioners, do you have any questions? No, okay, I just wanted to be clear. Thank you.
Thank you,
Council.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Kenny, a popular gentleman, as always tonight. Go easy on me. But obviously, you know, Bill has submitted as part of our application, an environmental assessment. And we will review our proposal with you from the standpoint of environmental impacts or the lack thereof. As I said in my opening remarks, he also has material that will address the request from staff for an alternative analysis. Again, without snaring his thunder, the essence of it is that We're not going to have any negative environmental impact on the wetlands. And in fact, we're going to be enhancing and protecting the wetlands in a manner superior to the 2010 approved development under wetlands permit 2010-1109. Mr. Kenny.
I'm Bill Kenny. I'm the principal of William Kenny Associates. I'm a professional wetland scientist, soil scientist, and landscape architect. We were retained to help with this project by identifying and assessing the water courses that are either on the property or adjacent. In this case, they're adjacent, so we did remote sensing of that. And then working with the project designers and client and applicant, I should say, assisted with the development of the property design in such a way that it can be completed to protect that wetland and watercourse resource that is nearby, and also enhance the buffer that is adjacent to it. So as has been discussed, there was previous approvals related to this property and the condominium. And when that property was developed, this pond, it's my understanding this pond was created perhaps as part of that, and its primary purpose was for stormwater management, as well as aesthetics and habitat. It certainly provides habitat value as well. It's a man-made pond, and there's appears to be a very narrow fringe of wetlands right around the edge of that. We did not go on the property to confirm that, but based on what we could see from a distance, based on the topography, that's what we believe the wetland edge is close to the pond. I was also involved with the permit that was issued in 2010 for the 2 homes, and developed a wetland buffer for that at that time as well. I will tell you that this buffer is substantially the same, except that we've increased the size of it. That permit, I understand, and there's we have a buffer demarcation feature here, protection feature, a split rail fence, and that's where the planting was approved in 2010. That permit asks that in this corner, where the activities are closest to the offsite pond, that the buffer be expanded to 25 feet. And now the staff recommendation is to expand that to 30 feet. We're pleased to expand that to 30 feet. And that development had the 2 homes with surface parking and asphalt driveways. And with this development, with majority of the parking being below the building, it adds value environmentally. You don't have rain, you get a little bit of wind-blown rain that comes in, or rain off a car, cars driving, and the rain pulls in, a little bit of water drips off, but you don't have the pounding rain on a regular basis on a car, and a car sitting there and leaking, and then the oil. So there's benefits to having parking below a roof or a building. It helps with water quality, so we see that as a benefit. And as has been described, the project's going to have standard soil erosion and sediment controls. It's a relatively small area. It's relatively level. There is some slope to it, but it's not steeply sloping. There's not a lot of rock. So the earthwork for this project is very manageable. We're not talking about 5-10 acres of earthwork. So it, with standard soil erosion and sediment controls, I believe that during construction, those controls can control soil erosion and collect sediment, and thereby protect the pond and the wetland that's offsite. And then after development, with the implementation and maintenance of the stormwater management plan, the stormwater management measures, which are primarily a subsurface infiltration system that'll be under the building and under the parking and below the building. So water will be collected from the roof, from the parking areas that are exposed, that don't have a roof over them, put into that subsurface infiltration system and allow for the water to infiltrate, some of the water to infiltrate into the ground. If and when that system becomes full, there's an overflow that allows the water to flow out. With your design regulation, stormwater regulations with regard to what you call the, commonly known as the 10-2, you end up with very large storage requirements. So compared to many other towns, you end up with a lot of extra or additional storage in the town of Fairfield based on that, which helps to provide more opportunity for infiltrating water into the ground and having it move slowly through the ground, be cleaned, temperature controlled. And so that's very helpful with regard to that recharge and treatment. So for all those reasons, for the soil erosion and sediment controls during construction, and stormwater management measures after construction, I do believe that this project can be done in a way that will avoid adversely affecting the offsite pond or wetlands. And what we put together a brief.
You want me to hand that out?
Summary table to provide you with some quantitative information to compare the 2010 development with the current development. So you can say, and focused on project features related to potential for impacts or protection for wetlands. On one side of the document has a mini plan of the old, what was approved, and a small version of what is proposed today. So both developments are occurring in substantially the same location. What you'll see is that although there's more roof area on this, there's much less exposed parking and driveway surfaces. Generally, roof water isn't as clean as water in a forest, but it's cleaner than a parking lot or a driveway. So we see that as if you have to increase impervious somewhere, I'd rather have it in a roof than a parking lot. So we reduce the amount of parking lot surface, and there is an increase in roof. The patios that were approved with the residential development were impervious. There's a patio that's proposed here, which will be forest. Then the naturally vegetated buffer, with the 2010 approval, there was 2,000 square feet of controlled invasives and planting of natives, and now there's going to be about 3,500 square feet. So almost double, not just 70% increase. And as I mentioned, there's a slight increase in the minimum width of that buffer in the northwestern corner of the property here. Both projects have this infiltration system, but one thing to note is that on the residential, the two-home residential property, the infiltration system was further out. So when the water went into the ground and moved through the ground, it had a shorter travel distance to the pond. So with this proposed development, that infiltration system is further away from the wetland. It gives a longer flow path that gives greater opportunities for cleaning the water and the wetland pond.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any questions, comments, concerns? Okay, anything further, council?
No, I think basically, just to summarize it, we worked carefully here. Hopefully you'll agree that we're not going to have any adverse impacts on wetlands. In terms of impact, we think we're providing enhancements to the protection of the wetlands compared to the 2010 proposal. We appreciate the staff's hard work in terms of the recommendation for approval. We are in total agreement with all staff requests, including those of the engineering department. They should be made a condition of approval. The only qualification is giving Mr. Santiago an opportunity to consider and maybe respond or not on that one issue. But overall, all the staff recommendations, as I reiterated before, and the engineering recommendations are acceptable to us, and we have no objection to that being made conditions of approval. So we hope you'll think it's a worthy application. We would obviously welcome your approval, and at that point we can move on to planning and zoning for a hearing on a wider scope of issues. Thank you very much.
Right. Public hearing. If there's anybody here in the audience that would like to come up and speak in support of this application, please feel free. You have to speak in support?
No, not in support.
Then hold on. Yeah. You'll call later. Just 2 seconds. Anybody here that would like to speak in support? Okay. Anybody online that would like to speak in support of this application? Speak in support of this application. Okay. Now, sir, anybody who's here in the public, right here. If you'd like to oppose, please come up, have a seat.
Oh, okay.
And give us your name and address and give us your information.
Thomas Braun, and I own the property directly across Stilson Road, 427 Stilson Road. It's a large commercial building. Several years ago, during an extreme rainfall event, we had quite a bit of flooding in our building, $50,000 worth of damage. Because the storm sewer system in Stilson Road overflowed, backed up into my building and caused a lot of flooding. Now, I'm concerned, is there any drainage from this property into the public storm sewer system on Stilson Road? If there is, I think that has to be accounted for, because in extreme events, it already overflows, and I witnessed personally, like geysers coming out of the manhole cover in Stilson. I would hate to add to that. So there should, if there's any overflow or any connection at all, I think that should be noted by the commission, and they should not be able to permit any water to leave the property at all, even on an overflow.
Okay, is that?
That's my
main
concern. Yes, it is.
Okay, then that's great. You can hold on if you'd like to hear an answer. I'm gonna ask council to get your people to.
Mr. Rotundo can elaborate on that. The simple answer is that no, we are not, but let him give a engineering-based answer.
If you wouldn't mind, just to appease this gentleman, if you could come and explain to us, I guess we're in a huge event. Where does the overflow go? Because I know there was a discussion of it being diffused in the groundwater, but if there's something and it needs to go somewhere, where's it going?
Right, for the record, again, this is Jim Rotundo. There is, as Attorney Fallon said, the simple answer is that there is no storm water being discharged into the town system in Stilson Road. All the storm water is collected in the detention system. Any overflow from that, from the level spreader or the high level overflow pipe, heads in a northerly direction to the rear of the site away from Stilson Road.
Through the chair, where is the northerly direction?
Is it towards the lake?
Yes, it is. It's toward the
back of the
to
building.
the back of the.
Away from your
back of the
Which
property.
is downhill from Stilson Road. It's
That's
below.
correct.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, great. So that's one proposed. Anybody else here in, okay, so coming up, sir, give us your name and address. Tell us your name and address and what your position is.
Dr. Steve Sherman, I'm at 200 Stilson Road. I'm president of the Homeowners Association for the Oaks. Our only comment today was to request a continuation and extension of time. We feel we were not given adequate notice. As a result, we've been unable to either hire counsel or a wetland scientist. So with all due respect to the comments that have been made about the development of the property, we have no one to give us any feedback as to whether that's correct or not. And from a practical point of view, it's my first time hearing what they had to say. Talking about something that took place in 2010, given the environmental changes we've had, seem inadequate, because over the last 3-4 years, we've incurred more problems with rainwater than ever before, impacting on the homes in our community. So our basic request today is to get a continuation so that we can employ counsel and at least see if what they're saying is accurate and will not have the impact that we think it might have on our property. And I thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, well, I appreciate that. And I don't know, Council, do you want to talk about it now, or I was gonna have more people?
Yeah, let people talk and then I will respond to that. But
Okay.
right.
So that's fine. We will talk about it, but I'd like some other people.
I believe our property manager's gone on the record with that as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Anybody else here in the public that would like to speak in opposition of this application?
I would like to add,
Come on up, ma'am. Give us your name and address.
same as Thomas Brown, we are husband and wife. And I think he forgot to mention something.
Oh, sure, just come on up and tell us what he forgot, because
I was listening to one of the gentleman's presentation, how well they were preparing for the underground water retaining system, how fast it can drain it to the underground system. That means our building is gonna have a water level higher. It's already very, water level is gonna be always higher. Any events of rain, because it's gonna seeping naturally. When you have a gravel piping, it's gonna go faster. So I don't think it's a good idea.
Okay, thank you very much for clarifying that.
Go back to my.
Yes. Okay. All right. Anybody else here that would like to come up and speak in opposition to this application?
Is this strictly related to wetlands?
Only wetlands, yes. It's gotta be something that deals with the wetlands. As council said, after this would be zoning and there's other issues that you could deal with there, but here it's just wetland. That's all we can talk about. And water is a big thing. So, all right, seeing none here in person, is there anybody online that'd like to, I don't know how they raise your hand or something, or let us know, if you'd like to speak in opposition? Oh, okay, well then, in that case, council, it's the request by neighbors to give them some time.
Well, I don't mean to be discourteous to the neighbors and that Dr. Sherman in particular who raised it, but, and ultimately this becomes a matter for obviously the commission to determine. The only thing I would say from the applicant's perspective is this commission, I know firsthand, works very hard to balance the reasonable rights and expectations of the applicants and the reasonable rights and expectations of interested members of the community. And the way you do that is you prescribe, and the statutes prescribe, a manner of notice to residents so that they have an opportunity to appear. And in this case, working with staff, those notices were given. Publication is required in the statute, was published twice in the local newspaper, and the direct abutters received certified mail notice. And that was done well over a month ago. So when I look at the balancing, and yes, I'm representing a client, but I think the client is entitled to a reasonable expectation that the process will move forward in accordance with the statute and the regulatory requirements. And I think it's difficult from an applicant's perspective for someone to come forward on the night of the hearing where the public notices have appeared in the paper over the last month, where the individuals have received certified mail notice of the pendency of the application and hearing, and says, we didn't get enough notice, we want more time. So ultimately, I defer to and respect whatever decision the commission makes, but I hope when you make the decision.
Okay, whoever that was, we're in a public setting.
Yes.
Might want to turn your volume speaker off and be a little bit more courteous when you speak or listen to others in a public setting and participating.
I've heard it before. But so that's my point. I just think in fairness to the applicant, we're playing by the rules. We've come here after all the notices were given. A very thorough presentation was given. If Dr. Sherman listened to the presentation, which I know he did, I would expect that at least the concerns from a drainage standpoint would have been addressed to his satisfaction by Mr. Rotundo and by Mr. Kenny. And I would also suggest that he can feel reassured because the staff has rigorously reviewed this. And as this record indicates, Mr. Santiago of the Town Engineering Department has rigorously reviewed this. So if the sole issue here is drainage and water-related issues and protection of the wetlands, I don't think there's any reason for a continuance here, other than to delay and obfuscate and inconvenience the applicant who's working in good faith.
All right, thank you. Sir, we know you wanted a continuance. There's not much more that,
Well, I'd like to just respond, since he had an opportunity to respond.
he was just simply responding to
Well,
you.
his response is inaccurate. We got a notice April 19th.
Sir.
It's registered mail.
I understand.
That's not a month. So I'd just like it on the record that he's not presenting it properly, and that's why we'd like legal counsel
That's fine.
so that we know we can prepare adequately to respond to the issues that he's raised.
Right, that's what you mentioned. You want time to respond. Okay. Commissioners, would you like to discuss?
This is a public process. If I'm gonna err, I'd like to err on the side of the public, so I don't have a problem. I think they asked respectfully, if you wanna look at the application with a professional, I think that's a reasonable choice.
Okay. Any commissioner?
I have a question for Attorney Fallon. How much time do you think it will take to speak with the engineering department and get that? those
I let
details?
Mr. Rotundo address that because I think Mrs. Santiago is going to respond pretty quickly, but Mr. Rotundo, what do you think?
Conservatively speaking.
Probably, I could reach out to Mr. Santiago next week and see if we could get together and put a conclusion there.
Okay, would it, conservatively speaking, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to come to some,
Probably within the next 2 weeks, we could have that resolved.
so in effect, we're asking for another 2 weeks. But I agree.
Yes, I mean, I'm not gonna, I understand Mr. Fain's point as far as the public process, and I respect that. I was saying though in my remarks that whatever the conclusions reached by Mr. Santiago, he could then advise the staff and that, so I don't need
Fair enough.
I'm not gonna fight with Mr. Santiago. I don't need a continuance.
No, I understand. I understand. I'm
Whatever he
just trying to
says, the
avoid
word.
a situation where your engineer needs more time when that time is being asked for by the public.
Yeah, I'm not gonna believe, I don't know that we need more time. I think Mr. Santiago needs a little time to consider what Mr. Rotundo said to him. But as far as the dialogue, it's complete. And my thinking in an ideal world was we could close the hearing. Mr. Santiago would address that one issue through staff to you, and you would make a condition of approval in accordance, if you see fit, with Mr. Santiago's
So
recommendation,
you would.
which I've already stipulated to, we'll agree to, in whatever it is.
I agree with Commissioner Fain that if we're going to, especially if they, sorry about my voice, especially if it's true that they only received it April 19th via certified mail, is that right?
Correct.
Then I think that they are.
Yeah, I mean, this is our first time down. we- Anything could happen at any time. It could have gone another way where we might not have had something complete. They might have had to answer our questions. I don't think it's reasonable. It's within the time frame that the statute allows us to have it. So I think a 1 month continuance allows your experts to talk to the town and allows really a neighbor, almost in a butter, if you will, to have the ability to have council review. Maybe they come to the same conclusion, everything's fine. There's no indication that it could be the opposite. I think it was an excellent presentation. You have good people there that presented it. The numbers seem fine. So I think we'll just continue this to the June meeting.
I respect the decision, and I meant no disrespect to the neighbor, and I hope they will hire an engineer and feel comforted by the work that we've done on these issues.
Public
I
hearing
would,
stays open.
if I could, Attorney Fallon, I'm just going to suggest also something that would be something I would suggest anyway, but might allay some of the fears of your butters and neighbors, and that is to consider using pervious pavers in the front of the building. Those are there parking spaces, a few parking spaces on each side? For those driveways and parking spaces, it might be something to consider that.
Certainly, I think, consider that, hopefully favorably.
Sure. Okay, so in that case, this is a public hearing. This public hearing will.
Could I, one thing that I would request, respecting the decision, could I ask that the chair consider suggesting to the neighbors that if they are going to introduce written material,
Yes.
so that we don't get a document dump on June 5th. There'll be some time frame a week before,
Okay,
so that we have a chance to look at that.
so,
Don't like what was done to us.
right, well, that's why we're here.
You want to
We don't
more
like what you
reasonable
did to us
than
tonight.
what you did to us tonight.
We will be happy to share with you.
Thank you.
So just within the way our submission requirements are anyways, for any document to be considered, it would be May 24th. All right, so the date that you would need to get information that you would want us to consider would be May 24th. And that, at that same time, given to us, give the courtesy to give it to council.
And as a point of information, do they have a contact so that we can get the same information so our experts can look at what
Your
you're
point of contact is the town website. Everything gets
Everything's there?
either to the
All
office personally.
documentation.
Everything we have here is public.
Sure,
So
we
you have access to it, and they need to give it here, and the citizenry needs to come and look at it in person. The staff would help give it to you, or it's now all digital. So it's all online, you all have access to it, and you can see what we see. But for purposes of council, submit it by the 24th, and if you can get it to him, or if not, council on 24th. Look,
Thank council, and need anything from me?
just, yeah,
You don't have to hunt around.
okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to Roman numeral 5, applications for receipt. Number 1, WP 24-0037, William Kenny Associates LLC, 220 Pansy Road, map 123, parcel 81. This will be quick, I guess.
I know, I was just gonna say that.
Parcel 81, demolition of existing structures, subdivide property into 3 lots on the construct 2 new single-family dwellings. Driveway, stormwater. We still have a meeting. You guys can go outside and talk as much as you want. We have a lot more to do, and we're gonna be here. You get to go home.
I was so
Repeat, this is Roman numeral 5, applications for receipt. Number 1, WP 24-0037, William Kenny Associates LLC, 220 Pansy Road, map 123, parcel 81, demolition of existing structures. Subdivide property into 3 lots and construct 2 new single-family dwellings with a driveway and stormwater detention system on 2 lots within a regulated area. Last day for public hearing, the decision is July 5th, 2024. Last regular meeting prior is June 5th, 24. Staff recommends scheduling public hearing for June 5th, 2024. Okay, that's fine. We'll schedule that for June 5, 2024. All right, now it's Roman numeral 6, applications for discussion. Number 1, continued WP 23-0161, ATL Builders LLC, 20 Road, map 167, parcel 15A. Remove deposition of fill and restore ground disturbance and intermittent water course within a regulated area. Last day for public hearing or decision is May 10th, 2024. Last regular meeting prior is May 1st, 2024. The permit application fees remain unpaid to date, unable to process. I'll stop there. Yes, has anybody shown up for any, no?
To date, the permit fee has not been paid.
All right, well, I don't even, this isn't even an application we can process, talk about, so it'll just kind of die in the vine, if you will. Okay. All right, number 2, WP 24-24-0027, Papa George, 493 Winnapaug Drive, map 73, parcel 178. Demolition of existing dwelling and construction of a new dwelling with driveway, barn, and associated site work within a regulated area. Last day for public hearing or decision, June 7th, 2024. Last regular meeting prior to June 5, 2024. Staff recommends applicant provide more information for consideration. Okay, sir. All right. Give us your name and who you are and what.
Lucas Papa George, I'm the owner of the property, I'm the applicant. I bought this property, you want my address is 121 Woodland Road, Fairfield, Connecticut. Submitting today to remove the existing non-FEMA compliant structure. And proposed new structure, now building. The patio, porch, the driveway and all associated. We actually, on the application on the survey, it says relocating the existing dock, we're actually adding a dock. That was an oversight there. Try to make a note of that. That said, just a little background. My family purchased the property in November 2022. Plans to convert the existing home into a place for multiple generations of our family. Great use and the beautiful nature surrounding us. We also love the idea of our children, nieces, nephews, friends, kids, someday grandkids, and God willing, great grandchildren. Kayaking, fishing, and other outdoor events at the home together and not being inside and on boats. My wife and I both were born and raised in Fairfield. My family has been in town for nearly 100 years, and I've been in business in town for that long as well. We know the town inside and out and chose not only this neighborhood, but this specific lot to build our house at. And that for that reason, the size, the lake accessibility, and as being a contractor focused solely on Fairfield for the last 20 plus years, I knew that we could do what we had dreamed about within the regulations of the town. With that said, I would like to go through basically the standard application and response. So anticipated impact, 4 houses down, they had an application and it was approved, very similar to ours, which was reviewed, and the overall impact was decided that it'd be no impact to the wetlands. So we have a very similar application, so we don't feel that we have impact to the wetlands. The majority of the impact to the wetlands that we would have, the riparian area that is proposed, we feel will upgrade the wetlands. Other than that, we really don't have any disturbance of the wetlands. Moving on to the standards for the board's decision. The environmental impact, proposed regulation activity on the regulated area. We feel there's no loss of wetland, soil, or water class areas proposed by this application. The applicant proposed for any feasible or prudent alternatives to the proposed regulation activity. Alternatives include no action or use of the site or continued residential use as is, all which do not substantially reduce the expected impacts of the nearby lake watercourse with adjacent wetland soils. Our proposal is a superior alternative to the improvements that exist on the site currently. So to see the relationship between the short-term and long-term impacts, proposed regulated activities on wetlands and water source, and the maintenance and enhance of long productive or such wetlands workforce. Short-term impact include the concern of soil erosion and sediment control for activities related to site disturbance and construction during the disturbance period. Long-term impacts related to long-term protection of the wetlands and soil and watercourse and maintenance of the subsurface drainage and the detention area. Letter D, irreversible or non-reversible. There's no irreversible loss to the wetlands or watercourse. Letter E, character and degree of injury to or interference with safety, health, or reasonable use of the property, including abutting downstream properties which could cause threatening or proposed regulation area, the creation of a condition which may do so. No interference with the safety, health, or reasonable use of the property is expected. Impacts of the proposed regulations on wetlands and watercourse outside area of available, which may impact on the wetlands and watercourse. Wetland soil and water course are not expected to be altered with the careful project implementation that we plan to use. Letter G, measures which would mitigate the impact of the aspect of the the stormwater detention proposed, and that's with the 10-2 proposal. Engineer Ockman has done that. The town engineering department has approved it. The existing proposed riparian buffer zone. Obviously, any going out into the water, much more than what is there now. Everybody's walked the site. That said, I would like to go back. So as a contractor and a builder developer now for 20 years, I've been a third-party site monitor for the town and other towns for over 10 years. I provide professional witness testimonies on other projects and oversee multiple Connecticut DOT projects involving complicated wetlands construction processes. As a project engineer, with this background, I have seen more developments, approved plans, and understand requirements more than most. With that in mind, we produced what I know is a well thought out plan. We actually went back and redesigned twice since changing your July 2023 and your changes to regulations. So we went back after that again and redesigned second time. But we provided 2/3 of the lakefront as riparian buffer area. And not only did we do that, but we expanded that into the property more so than most plans would. We provided 15% of the overall property as riparian area. This fits the continued use and enjoyment of the property while having only a positive impact on the wetlands and watercourse and flood zone. Our application meets all the requirements of the town of Inland Wetlands Watercourse regulations effective July 1st, 2023, and the state of Connecticut, Chapter 440 Wetlands regulations, Wetlands and Watercourse regulations. With this in mind, I request an unconditional approval. Last year, we did the NDDB was oversight that we had. We have already applied for that. And we're awaiting a response from the state. In our past experience, anything with that, we're at the very fringe edge of that. That's why we missed it. And they use a 1/4 mile radius for the last sighting of any endangered species. They're highly unlikely to have anything on our property. Usually they send a standard form back for a project of this size, just saying the activities that you're looking for. I said just a couple rebuttals. I got the staff review on Friday. Obviously, for my proposal, I'm disagreeing with that, so I'd like to rebut some of their requests. And
Okay, sure, go ahead.
just to give a background on that. So they request the NDDB. I just did that part, same thing. Number 2, they request a riparian buffer planting plan and what wetlands impact assessment shall be prepared by a professional wetland scientist. This is not a requirement of the state of the requirement. The state or the town has not been requested on projects of this scope. Staff members with comprehensive training should be able to evaluate our proposal and its adequateness. This is a simple demolition rebuild, which is upgrade the structure to full FEMA compliance with decreased downstream flooding, decreased runoff, with the addition of drainage and non-pervious erosion and non-pervious. areas. So the drainage for the structure and for the non-pervious areas are all being detained on site. It's all being caught in catch basins, downspouts going to drainage, recharge the groundwater. It's not going to the flood zone. Right now, there's no drainage on site. It's all going into the lake. It's all running off. It's all eroding. We do have riparian buffer zones as on our proposed plans. So that's 2/3 of the lakefront and extends well into the property. So requirement for a professional wetland scientist is really not needed on this project of this scope. It hasn't been requested in the past projects. Number 3, provides the planting plan. Access way of the waterfront is no larger than 25 feet. The planting plan shall include the mix of native canopy trees and shrubs. The grasses minimize biodiversity. Demarcation of the riparian buffer, 2-man boulders shall be included in this plan. This is a huge overreach thing, for the following reasons. For the boulders will be considered fill within the FEMA flood zone. This is against FEMA regulations. The staff notes recommend that it will keep out waterfowl. I don't think spread out boulders will keep waterfowl out unless we do a boulder wall, which would be a significant amount of fill, not only in the flood zone, but also fill on top of wetlands material. The boulders will also cause additional disturbance when placing them because it's going to need a machine to be down on that portion of the property and a truck to deliver them. So that's going to cause additional disturbance closer to the wetlands.
Could I interject a second?
Yes.
I've read the staff conditions. You're not convincing me that.
Yeah, well, let council, I'm sorry, Chairman.
Commissioner.
Let him finish, and I think, just let him finish. Let him finish. So just you have every opportunity to state what you gotta say.
As far as the planting plan, we have existing shade trees that are not being removed, adjacent to other ones. In our survey, one of these 3 going, one of these 4 going. We have these 2 are 2, these 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are too close to the 10-20 to even be kept. Our proposal does have biodiversity and does have trees in the proposal. They're 20-foot trees in the proposal. Those base. Also, cutting trees on your property for the most part. Although you call and ask, it's usually a by right to cut a tree down within the setback area. We're not cutting any trees down in the wetlands area. And I think you guys walk the property, whole line of trees on either side, the entire property. The 25-foot restriction on the access to the waterfront is, in my opinion, a hugest overreach. It is a central concern, both the Nolan and Dowley standard, which says the risk that an agency may use the power to pursue government ends that lack the essential nexus, the burden on the developer to be roughly proportionally to the anticipated adverse impact of the development. It also concerns me, it gives me grave concern about the enclosing the sightlines of the waterfront to allow for oversight of children using the lake for outdoor activities. And we have taken good note to design riparian buffer area that far exceeds into the property to take away any anticipated adverse impact to the construction. Number 4, provide more information on the dock. Like it said that the plans are there, but the dock will have 4 12-inch concrete footings, 1 for each corner of the dock. This will be done when the water level is lowered. They do that on a regular basis to maintain the dam and allow the neighbors to go in there, put leaves out or whatever they want to do. The purpose of the 2 docks is to create a safe swim area that we can put a rope in between, floating ropes to designate where the lake starts to drop off and get deep. That's the purpose of the dock right now. Number 5, provide town planning and zoning. They responded, I believe, yesterday on that, and they have no issue with our proposal. Okay. With that, I'll leave it to questions.
Sure. Before I'm gonna go to the commissioners here. The agenda itself has the staff recommends applicant provide more information for consideration. So I'd like to know what that, if you can tell us what it is that you're looking for.
The most that I wanted was the natural diversity database
Okay.
information, because we don't know if that's gonna change anything in
Okay.
terms of sequencing, soil and erosion controls,
And it
anything
was-
like that. So it was difficult to say approval with conditions because we didn't know what that would bring.
All right, so that's something what we're waiting on anyway, right? And you said you
Already submitted,
it.
we're waiting, and
All right.
we're obviously whatever they want us to do as far as it's usually, like you said, sequencing, erosion control, things like that. We're way away from the lake.
Yeah.
Any lake or animals would be at the lake line, and that would just be the planting plan. So we could obviously wait and phase that project out. So I'll concede to, follow their regulations.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions?
I do.
Okay,
I have
go
a
ahead.
question for staff. This is the first time, to my knowledge, we've been involved with the dock or structure on waterway. What is our responsibility when dealing with something like that, such as concrete posts in Sandmore?
It's the activity of the installation is the regulated part. So, like Lucas said, it's design's considering 4 sonotubes, which I think is a pretty quick installation process with minimal disturbance.
Right.
It is in the wetland soils regulated area.
It would also be hand dug.
That had not been provided as part of this.
So we need, yeah.
That would be hand dug, and that would be when the water flow. Everybody's in the lake doing some kind of.
Part of what we're waiting for.
Yeah, that was part of.
So on the planting plan, there is, as you guys all walked, but there is already substantial vegetation along the edge of the lake that will not be getting removed.
There is? There's vegetation at the edge of the lake.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't see that.
It's 2 foot wide.
Okay.
Not real scenic.
So, but it's not being removed. You can see it in picture number 6 along the edge.
Okay. All right, that's fine. That's your statement, and we did, most of us walked the site, if not all. So any other commissioners, any questions of this?
I have some comments.
Okay, comments.
I'm first of all, I'm fully in support of Sarah's staff report. I'd like to see the additional information. I've also walked the property. I looked at the property. I would like to ask or request that we have, at the same time we have the other property investigated by soil scientists, so we also have this property investigated for, I think there's additional wetland areas there. And again, I'm speaking as a member of the commission, but I also am a certified soil scientist. So I would like to have that also done. I would, I look at the plan. I don't know why all the trees have to come down. I understand it's your property, but I would make a request that you look at the property a little harder and try to save some more trees or some significant trees there. Some really nice red maples.
And as the people that walk the property can see, on each side of the property, there's bunch of branches this big, long, those are getting tossed from those trees, so those are getting falling off of those trees.
You can prune to the trees, I know, but, you know,
I understand
you
that,
do
but
lose some branches, but anyways,
I'd like to
I'm
get
just
that
asking,
creative
making the
and move
request,
around
they,
So when the children are playing, they don't get hit by a branch.
You just don't like the look of them.
It's not the look. it's-
You're in the same group that Governor Lamont would be in, I guess. So,
Not sure what that means.
Well, let me just say, because I'm an ecologist. I will say that while the trees are not in the regulated area or.
they're
I'm sorry, they're in the regulated area, they're not,
yeah.
they're not in the
Wetland.
wetland area.
Yeah.
They do provide, they are part of the wetland system. Maples are large trees that provide a lot of shade. And they are part of the system that your property is on. So while they may be seen as being separate from the wetlands, they are a contributing factor and part of the wetland system.
Curious says the root temperature themselves. Temperature, but the roots themselves. Wouldn't
The roots themselves,
have
the
a
light.
Water saving,
Yep.
a filtration thing,
And also older trees capture more carbon than younger trees do. You're looking at 286 inches of girth that you're removing in those 15 trees, those 15 trees. I would be more positively disposed if you would take another look at the trees and rethink how many you have to take down.
And we could absolutely do that. I just have concerns about the roots on at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 trees. And then these two small.
you come back to, and then in terms of the frontage, I hear
That would be
you.
a positive. We view that positive.
I think we can negotiate on terms of, you know, the frontage and you have more than 25 feet, but the other comments that Sarah brought up, and I'd like to have, we, as a commissioner, I think we look more and more at these applications. This is sensitive property, it's on the waterfront. I don't think it's overreach to ask for a letter from a professional, so giving their opinion on the impacts of this project.
Well, I'll take that one step further and say that we rely on the professional opinions, as you've seen this evening, if you've been here for the entire meeting, or if you look at any of our past meetings, we rely on the expertise of people like Bill Kenny to come in and advise you as to, and they're also very familiar with our process and our expectations.
Fully
So
understand.
it would, to get a planting plan, a wetlands assessment, a stormwater management plan, all of those things are very common parts of the application process that we ask for so that we can make a better assessment of what the impacts are.
I understand and appreciate your comments, and we do have a soil scientist on staff, we have an engineer that's done work on this, obviously. And again, we have a comprehensive planting plan. Show me the issues you have with that, we could address them. On other projects, I hired these people, we've done numerous projects in this town. Like I said, I'm a third-party environment consultant for this town and others. We've worked on multiple other projects. And I definitely agree with you that at times and at projects that is required and that's needed. I don't think a tear down rebuild kind of goes to that level.
So it's not about the tear down rebuild. It's about the proximity to wetlands and a water course. That is what we're primarily concerned with. It's really none of our business what you're tearing down and what you're building. We are only concerned with the impacts to the wetlands. So if there is a perceived possible impact, then we need a professional assessment of what that impact will be.
4 houses down, project similar to this one, impact on the wetlands when that was produced. But if that's the case, that's fine. I'd like to know exactly what you need. And
You did use the word, take away any potential impact. You did use that you did think there was a potential.
So that's why
Part of what, for a second, one of the things Danny's talked about in the past is we do look for opportunities to not only preserve, but kind of rectify enhance may, I don't know if that's the right word, but we try to look to, yeah.
Well, that's why I feel
This is-
that-
It's not that we want to dictate, what you do with your own land, but I do think Sarah's recommendation for the buffer is a really good one, because what we're really trying, I think her sense of that was to kind of, that's the way it should be. Commissioner, this is not a riparian buffer, what you have.
No.
I just wouldn't agree with you there.
We have
It's not a riparian buffer.
15% of the property or
It's not a riparian buffer. That's my opinion. I'm not.
3,000 square feet.
You can't bully me on that one, okay? It's not a riparian buffer. And I do agree with some of the comments. I mean, it's your property, and it sounds to me, it's just I'm not speaking, it sounds to me like you want a more open view or whatever you want. You don't want trees. But Dabney is really correct. The tree canopy affects the temperature. And that's a critical factor in the riparian buffer, which in this case, frankly, isn't very robust. But
Yeah,
I do think that's a concern for me.
I think it should be.
I think the riparian buffer that is there is 4,000 square feet. Not appreciate, look at the site map. Those trees aligning here, this whole property will be shaded. The alternative is to leave it as it.
Where would it be shaded if you cut all the trees? I'm sorry?
There's trees all along here, there's trees here, and there's more trees over here,
I don't
so.
know, the one I'm looking at,
I
they're
think
all
he's talking
gone.
about the eastern corner.
Okay.
Where everything that's basically on a boundary.
And outside of the boundary, so we didn't mark those trees.
Listen, I'm a
The
parent.
neighbor has cut over 30 trees.
I know, but that's not relevant to this application. And as a parent, I completely respect your desire, want to be able to see your kids near the lake.
Yeah.
But that is not our purview. Our priority here is to benefit the wetlands. And so all other issues have to be secondary to that. So I would recommend that we come back to this commission with a planting plan, a wetlands assessment,
I have a plan.
a storm water management plan, and your NDDB or a letter from the, and also I would like an arborist to come to the property and assess the condition of the trees that you'd like to take down, especially the trees that are closer to the riparian buffer. Those things all take time and cost money, but they're really very standard in terms of what we ask
This
for.
isn't a
There's no-
modest out.
Yeah, I mean,
They
this,
go.
we're not trying to single you out at all. These are very common documents that we ask our applicants to come to us.
You also made a point to disagree with two-man boulders being put there. So would you prefer then a split rail fence to close it off completely?
No fence would probably be better. I mean, as far as FEMA regulations.
Would you be okay with that?
I don't know how you guys could provide a FEMA violation.
Yeah, we could discuss that with DPG.
You have a calculation on your plans for the floodplain storage calcs, and so you can consider that in the floodplain storage calcs. The boulders, and I don't think FEMA, it's minuscule. Yeah, I think the idea of having some kind of fence something would make sense.
It's just a way to
That's nothing
identify.
new. If you've
Yeah.
been in front of the wetlands before,
That's not it.
so, okay, all right,
I
so.
don't agree with the filling the wetlands and I think that's against your purview, but if we want to put a split rail fence through the wetlands, if that's your call, that's.
It's to demarcate.
It's to demarcate, you're not putting it through
You're
the
not putting it
wetlands,
through
it's before.
I'll put it this way, because the wetland's only about 10 feet off.
Why don't you come back to us with
Yeah.
your
Right,
proposal?
so what the
Okay.
wetlands, what a wetland scientist can do is show you where that demarcation line would be. Okay. of-
We
of
have a
the
planting
wetlands.
plan. We have an engineer.
But it's not here. We need it here in front of us.
All in the file.
The planting plan was attached, but it was not
Oh, okay.
like professionally done.
Okay, so yeah, I think you need to hire some professionals.
If you have every right to go forward how you wish. These are simply comments for you to take into account. Without knowing anything about it, how any commissioner would go, this to us feels incredibly incomplete. And also, these staff recommendations are not unusual. You might not agree with them. However, other properties in the town have agreed with staff recommendations and usually the plan goes through. This isn't even, we're not having a public hearing. But, you know, that would be even more expensive. And the staff didn't recommend a public hearing. They just simply recommended, we need more information. We're going that way. And the two things are the NDVD and then the riparian buffer planting plan and the professional wetland scientist. That might help you get through this process in front of you. But you can prosecute or you can, present your application you like. But this information should be helpful to you.
I will also say for the record, and just for everyone's edification, that you want us to have those professional documents. We, while some of us are scientists and others have backgrounds in construction and environmental sciences and things like that, the decisions that we made should be based on scientific evidence provided by professionals.
My environmental scientist says there's no impact on the roads. No.
Oh, we would want to see a report that demonstrates.
The report says there's no impact from the construction. Get rid of all this portion. Are you gonna accept that?
Oh, we'll have to see it.
The data
The
says,
law says no impact on the wetlands. We don't have to update anything.
So if we see.
You don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything. You can present this application how you want. And we as a board can vote how we want. And then there are state laws and statutes and procedures in place that you can take advantage of. However, we're not looking to do that, but we have an obligation on this board to take care of the wetlands for the town as best as we can as lay people. So it really shouldn't be argumentative. It should be a dialogue. And you should take it as such. Okay? All right, we're gonna continue this to the next meeting. Okay. We're moving on to number 3 under Roman numeral 6 applications for discussion. That's WP 24-0028. Mercedes Engineering LLC, 5 Pequot Avenue, map 241, parcel 164A. Demolition of existing dwelling, construction of a new dwelling with attached garage, new driveway, pool, patio, septic and drainage systems, and associated site improvements in the regulated area. The last day for public hearing or decision is June 7, 2024. The last regular meeting prior is June 5, 2024, and that's with conditions. Hello.
Hello. Good evening. Just before we start, I want to hand out a couple of minor updates to our materials. These were based on, these are based on some comments that we received from planning and zoning, engineering and health. I believe you guys have copies, but I have extras for you. So what you have in front of you is just an updated drainage report as well as a new site plan that just goes over a couple minor changes. This is what I have in front of you here. And I'll go over what the changes are in a moment, but
Effectively, this property is a tear down rebuild of an existing structure. It is a excuse me, a 0.676 acre lot owned by Grace and Doug Rosenstein. My name is Avon Bauer. I'm a project engineer with Crucidis Engineering LLC. This property resides or sits about 1,000 feet from Southport Harbor down southeast. That's a tidally influenced portion by Long Island Sound. A portion of the property sits in the VE14 zone, and there is a small area of the 100-foot SASCO regulated area.
Can you point that out?
Yeah, so this line right here,
That's really that's the issue, huh?
that is the VE.
We couldn't figure it out when we went on, I'm like, what is the issue with this property?
Yeah, so there are actually no wetlands on the property. We have a letter from Bill Kenny's office who actually came out to the property. And all the wetlands, based on the wetlands map that the town has on file, are on the neighboring property. It's just a very small portion right in the southwest corner that has the 100-foot Sasko Creek watershed setback area.
Yeah.
Same page, sorry. Did you want me to go over anything, Commissioner Fain?
I'm good.
So what currently exists on the site is a small residential building and a shed, both of which are going to be removed, as well as a driveway that that's kind of fallen into this areas in a weird section of the property because the property was subdivided a few times and some cuts were made. The general topography of the property slopes from the northeast up over here down to the southwest into that regulated area, just a small portion of the property. As I mentioned, there's been no wetlands evaluated on the property by William Kenny Associates. His report is dated February 21st, 2024. So the owner's proposal is to demolish the two existing structures and construct a new single-family residence. The two brown areas that you see here are the primary residence, with the gray areas here, and some just covered porches, a breezeway, and a sunroom that they'd like to propose. We're providing a brand new state of Connecticut code compliant septic system. That's this area in green. And this is where the plan differs from the one that you received a couple weeks ago. We received some comments from the health department, zoning department, and engineering department, which have all been addressed. And we have received approval from health to move the septic system from the rear of the property into the front of the property. It was just a matter of a discrepancy between a few calculations, and we got it all to work, and health actually approved the application on the 29th via email. We're now providing 3 stormwater detention systems, which are to obtain the increase in runoff for the 2 through 100-year storm events, as well as provide the 10-year runoff rate to be lower than the 2-year existing rate, opposed to existing, excuse me. The drainage systems provide water quality volume as well, and groundwater recharge for all the new services. So we also, one of the other changes that you'll see on this plan is that we have pretty significantly altered the grading in relation to the southern property property line. So the grading has now been pulled back up against the building, and the patio's dropped to a more existing elevation to reduce the amount of grading that's coming towards that property and the steepness of the slope in that area. We've also minimized the grading within the 100-year flood zone, the PE zone. We're providing some pretty significant mitigation measures as well. The entire downgrading portion of the property, this red line here, will be a silt fence to prevent any siltation impacts to the downgrading of properties. We have 2 different protected stockpile areas and mud tracking pads at both entrances to the proposed horseshoe drive once they're installed, constructed rather. There's also been a significant planting plan provided by Kelly McGovern. She's here with you to answer any questions as well, should you need anything. And that planting plan is made in mind to not only provide buffer areas to these wetlands, but also to keep as much native vegetation there as possible. I'm here to answer any additional questions, should you have any, and I do thank you for your time.
This is a plan we just looked at tonight.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, it was a minor revision of effectively, the only real changes, as I said, was that the grading was cut back pretty significantly in relation to southerly property, which is in the 100-foot Sasko watershed area. And the drainage and septic systems were change basically from the front yard to the back.
So does that affect the planting plan?
The planting plan shouldn't be affected too much. I believe Kelly, if you have any questions for her, she can go.
Can you go over it? I can't, I have a hard time seeing this.
It won't affect it too much.
Can you
no.
just go walk us through your planting plan?
Sure.
Before you leave, sir, what is the reason for moving the septic system to the front of the property?
So it was a discrepancy between some of the test pits that we had, the soil data, just because we weren't able to dig as many test pits in the back due to the existing structures. We had a little more data in the front and the sanitarium felt a little more comfortable with the design in the front. The system still complies with all the same standards. And like I said, it was a.
Curiosity, how close is it?
I'm not 100% sure how close the sewer system is. I don't believe it runs through most of Pequot Avenue in this area.
Before you start, can I ask you, are you okay with the staff's recommendations? Are you inclined to?
I believe, yeah, the staff recommendations were primarily to, adhere to engineering comments and the P&Z comments, in particular in response to the grading. So we were trying to get ahead of that, and that's what we've done.
Okay.
We have sent this over to Emmeline Harrigan and Anthony Santiago. I haven't heard back from them. I have been following up. But I don't anticipate if they have any comments, they will probably be very minor and wouldn't require a significant change to the plans.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Hi.
Hi, I'm Kelly McGovern. I'm a garden designer based in Fairfield, and can I just see what you're looking at?
I don't have my.
Okay, so
He's got
you
the-
got that, okay, good. So, on this section that we're looking at here with the affected area, we'd like to keep all the plantings, can you see this okay? To native species.
No,
I
no.
want to have some Emmeline trees close to the house and maybe some, American Pennsylvania, bayberries there, just to provide a little privacy. And there's going to be some air conditioning condensers there that we want to disguise a little bit. But instead of lawn on all this big swath, we want to plant it with some native grasses, native flowers, wildflowers. It would be really pretty to sweep up into the lawn. It will make a really nice pretty transition. Oh, yeah. Did you get this list?
No, I don't think we got that.
This is what I gave to the client.
It's in the.
These are some of the plants.
Oh, I don't know.
I mean, just walk through real quickly.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, just for the.
The trees I'd like to use are Emily canadensis, shadblows. They'll flower in the spring, maybe in the fall for birds. Bayberry is a evergreen shrub, very. Two grasses that I like are the prairie drop seed and the tufted hair grass. Moundy grasses, so we would plant them pretty densely. Echinacea, Virginia bluebells, and liatris. So these are all things that the deer won't come. So
The day will come, but.
so they're, and the common milkweed too. So these are all great things for the
Maybe
environment.
put some- butterfly milkweed.
Sorry?
Butterfly milkweed, they don't like butterfly milkweed.
They don't, do they like common milkweed?
Common milkweed's really a thug, you know, and if you use the butterfly milkweed, the orange one, it's.
Orange, yeah.
Yeah,
The
it's
deer don't touch it.
too gross. It's a little bit more,
Yeah,
I think better for this.
I think the common milkweed is the only host for monarch butterflies.
Yeah, it is.
The
But it
butterfly
does-
milkweed, the
The,
orange,
the common one is.
they both,
They both are?
yeah, they both are, yeah. Butterfly milkweed.
You wanna have both?
It's a
Thank
pretty
you.
hard fall.
Yeah.
I don't, commissioners, any other questions for? No?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any other questions?
Asking for that.
Yeah.
Good. Part of the push back.
I actually have a question. Your client consider the patios having pervious pavers?
So rather than use the pervious pavers, what we've actually done is at the end of each of these patios is going to be a slot drain, or doesn't necessarily need to be a slot drain, but some way to collect that patio runoff, which will be detained and infiltrated into the groundwater. So it's filtered out and when it gets into the groundwater.
I'd like to ask you a question about that. It was our intention not to set the patio in concrete. So that it would still have some sense of.
So it's set in sand or stone dust or.
It would be a, gravel base and then stone dust or sand and then.
To some extent.
To some extent,
To an
yeah.
extent.
That's great. And the planters, will those,
They're not planters, they're just beds.
they're beds, so the beds they'll be able to percolate down
Yes.
to the groundwater.
Sarah, Tim, you got anything that you want to add? I don't know.
No, not really. The only possible impact to wetlands had to do with the grading was causing water to go down. So wetlands are really kind of property.
Yeah.
It's gotta go further down. So that was
it, right?
Yeah.
We mitigated that to the extent possible.
Okay.
It's as tight as it could really be in that area.
Commissioners, any other questions or comments?
No.
Motion, please.
Motion to approve.
Anybody second that? With the conditions and everything?
Yes, staff conditions.
Yep. All in favor? All around.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. Have a great evening.
Good luck.
We have- Okay, so we'll do number 4 now, concept review the Patterson Club. 118 Cross Highway, map 220. Present and review concept prior to submission of application for pond and stream restoration and additional site work.
Chairman, members of the commission, Russo with Russo and Rizio LLC, offices at 10 Saskatoon Road, in Fairfield, here on behalf of the applicant. I'm going to turn it over quickly to Bill, but I'm here with Bill Kenny, who's worked on this project, Mike Shevlin with Huntington, Jason Mearsman, who's the director of grounds at Patterson Club. And we're here for a conceptual review, kind of pre-app review, as the Patterson Club has developed a master plan. It's a big plan. There's a lot of work that went into it, not just from the golfing end of it, but as Bill will run through with you, a lot of thought and care as to what they're doing to the grounds there, to the ponds, and some of the buffering, the culverts that are there. So a lot of thought has been put into this. It's a process. We will be before you probably multiple times. So we wanted to just present to you kind of an overarching look of what we're looking to do. And then in the future, we'll be coming, and Bill kind of detailed that out, but we'll be coming in with applications for the different parts of the work that we're proposing. But, Patterson Club, I'm sure you all know it. It has been at its current location since 1946, been there for decades. It's going to be here for decades. And they've really been a great steward of that property. Not many people know there's 8 acres of pollinator pathway there. They are nationally Audubon certified for best practices. They have a close relationship with our local Audubon chapter. And they've been really doing a lot of cutting edge stuff and great practices to help the area. So with that, I will turn it over to Bill. He's going to kind of take you, and I'll put the presentation up here on the screen as well, because obviously it's a very large property. I think on this side it's about 161 acres. So we're going to try to break it up section by section and kind of show you what we're looking to do, and what we're proposing, and take it that way to walk you through it. So Bill, do you want to take over, and I'll put this up on the screen. I can share. I can share now. Yeah.
We could go late into the evening, but we'll try not to. So I'll give an overview and then focus in on some areas where the wetland streams are. The course overall is glacial drumlin type hill with this north-south oriented hill, and then you end up with these drainage corridors on the eastern, north is this way, and western, and they flow from the northeast to the southwest. Of course, roughly 80 years old. Nearly all of the property was manipulated when the course was constructed, and that included constructing some ponds, a series of ponds in this area. And also within this wetland system, the driving range was constructed at that time immediately adjacent and within the wetland system. I would just expand a little bit on what Chris had said about their stewardship. That the superintendent, Jason Mearsman, who is here this evening, he's not only an amazing superintendent for the objectives of creating a great course for golf, but it's when he explains to you what they're doing to minimize their need for adding fertilizers or pesticides and things like that, it's amazing the level of science they're using to get it down to very minimal applications and increasing the habitat on the site. And the amount of when you're out there, the amount of wildlife is just amazing. And you're just talking about like the breeding pair of wood ducks that they have just showed up recently. Just all kinds of wildlife on the property. So, and he has expanded the pollinator pathway is meadow habitat, extensive amount of meadow habitat on the property. So, and the ponds that were built decades ago have filled in quite a bit with sediment. And so we're looking to remove some of that sediment. And then there's crossings for the different cart paths and maintenance. And we want to, the culverts that were put in are undersized and too small. So we want to put in larger culverts. And then also this concept plan was put together by Huntington, but we're all working closely together with Huntington, the golf course with Jason, and coming up, we'll be preparing a detailed planting plan to go with this and a habitat management plan. But what I did review, I took some of these areas and then added some photographs of the areas to get a sense of what the areas look like. And the course has been doing a lot of homework, talking to a number of different contractors that have a lot of experience with working within ponds and doing dredging maintenance. So they're working with people that are very experienced in this work. We're getting their input as well as our experience as consultants. So it's really a team effort. But we could start with pond number 5, which is in the northernmost portion of the property. And so some of you can see the disrepair of the cart path and culverts that go underneath that. And the bottom right-hand photo is a picture of the pond viewed from west to east. Just to the north is the property line. And there's a culvert just on the left-hand side of that photo and on the right-hand side. So those culverts would be upgraded to more current standards and practices, where instead of a couple of small pipes, of circular pipes, put in a box culvert with a natural bed beneath it. And incorporating, we've had some discussions with Tim about incorporating more native vegetation around the ponds and so forth. So that would be the first pond and on the concept plan estimates for the amount of material that's proposed to remove, we're indicating that. And I'll say the green are the existing holes. The master plan calls for changing the routing of play and things like that, and also changing some of the locations of some of the green, shifting things in the tee boxes a little bit. So the light gray are the wetlands and the ponds. The dark gray are current concept for doing improvements that we think are regulated activities that we're going to be before you to ask permission for. So they indicate some areas where there'll be sediment, dewatering areas for sediment that's removed from the pond, and then shifting of for example, at pond 6, which is the next one south of 5, we'd like to do some reworking of the tees in that area and shift the cart path a little bit So we go to the picture for 6. Let's see that in the existing cart path, there is a desire to shift the location of that, so you'd restore habitat in its current location and then bridge habitat in the proposed location. The photos in the lower portion, you could see the effects of some of the sediment that's accumulated in that pond and causing it to fill. So that's number 6. If we come down, there's a pond number 7. There's not too much work proposed there. There is a new culvert at that location. Some of the other work is to put in piping for future irrigation upgrade with the course. The course is going to go through a significant upgrade in irrigation. Then perhaps one of the larger areas of work is as you move south to pond 4 and 3. Not sure why the pond numbering is in this order. But and all these ponds are man-made when the course was built. I understand somehow the Army Corps of Engineers got involved with GE was involved with starting this course, and I don't know if someone at GE had a connection with the Army. I don't know why they were on a private golf course helping.
Fish with the Cooper Dam, they came over.
But there is a connection between pond 4 and a small channel on the western side. And this pond is also used for irrigation. Desire to expand, to remove the sediment in those ponds, just not to provide more volume, but also to make the 2 ponds healthier. Like pond 4 is quite stagnant. By connecting it with pond 3 to, right now that area, it continues. That area is maintained as a rough lawn area. The photo on the top right is your north. Pond 4 is on the left in the foreground, and in the background is pond 3. So that area between pond 4 and the foreground and distance, which is very hard to see, pond 3, that where it's grass, proposing, it's a grass wetland, proposing to expand the ponds there. So that is an overview of the work on that western side, northwestern portion of the club. On the southeastern side, there is a desire to improve the practice area, the driving range, the greens, the practice greens, and shift hole number 18. I don't play golf, so I probably am gonna say a lot of things that aren't accurate with regard to golf. So there are just certainly a lot of wetlands in the area there. So if you look at the photos for that, of course, it's all maintained as lawn now. Chris, could you forward that? Keep going to the end. Last one. There we go. So this are photos of that, of the driving range area now. There's a over the decades, there's a substantial amount of drainage improvements in there, grates and pipes, and but there's some remnant wetland soils that still exist in those lawn areas. So yep. So
And the intent, Bill, is so we would come first for on dredging. Yes, and then work on the culverts, and then we would come back.
Doing a lot of other work too, like irrigation, and I assuming that if you're doing all this other work, you do a lot of drainage and.
Right, and so, but we're it's gonna be a multi-step, we're gonna come to you with multiple applications.
Okay, so each phase is a different application.
Yeah, but I would like to understand how everything kind of ties together.
Okay, so that's exactly why we're here. Get that kind of feedback.
Well, you know, the 2 things that got golf courses is it's all about irrigation and it's all about drainage. You know, it's kind of counterintuitive, but I mean, especially the drainage is probably even more important than irrigation.
Right.
So, you know, it gives you a lot of opportunities now if you're doing it to collect the drainage and treat it rather than just discharge it direct.
You mentioned that one or some of the ponds is used for irrigation. Are the system, does it go back into the ponds in some cases? Or does it just go into the ground, the drainage or water?
Right.
I'm not sure.
Right. So just as the science for applying fertilizers and pesticides is at the peak, the irrigation system with sensors and things like that, they'll only be applying the minimum needed. And Jason, in the future, when we come back with that detail, they'll be able to explain that.
Yeah.
So when you have a professionally operated like that, you get very little runoff from that when it's being properly, but you get runoff from rain events. Sure. Irrigation, there should be really no runoff.
Is it fair to say it could almost be like almost self-contained? I mean, just it's all.
So it's getting, if it's not being used, most of it, you hope, when you're irrigating, the objective is for the plants to use it and transpire the water through their leaves. Some will be infiltrated into the ground, but you're gonna have cart paths where there's a little bit of overflow and you get runoff from the cart paths and things like that. But, the locations of the sprinkler heads, the type of the sprinkler heads, and the amount of water that's put down is gonna be, it's all very
high-tech stuff.
It's expensive. It's expensive to run it.
Yes.
You want to control the runoff.
Right, and the last thing they want to use is city water with chlorine.
Yeah.
So their objective is to conserve as much water. They do have a permit with the state for diversion of water for irrigation.
Okay.
We can provide you with a copy of that.
Actually, I know since Jason's taken over, they've significantly cut back how much municipal water that they actually use. I mean, it is a goal there. Keep it minimal.
So it's the ultimate goal
Homeowners.
to not use any municipal water.
I don't know if you could get away with none, but
That would be ideal. Obviously that
Jason,
would.
why you gotta come up and just introduce
You
yourself.
are, say hello.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Jason Mears, I'm Director of Grounds Patterson Club. A lot of very exciting stuff just talking about it. I'd love to dive into the weeds, but I know we'll do that later. The idea with the watering system is obviously the chlorine, the fluoride ties up the nutrients in the soil, so it makes it so it's not plant available. Our name of the game is light and frequent, so you try to water with the least amount of water possible, least amount of fertilizer possible, least amount of everything possible, less mowing, less growth, all that good stuff means, a smaller footprint on the environment, which is ultimately our overall goal. I was actually mentioning earlier to these guys about how we just bought 14 robotic mowers, Husqvarna robotic mowers. Unbelievable. Yeah, there two of them are powered by solar panels. And basically we have about 24 acres of rough that is mowed by robotic mowers. And not only is the purchase price and cost of ownership spectacular when it comes to owning these things, but I think it cuts down about 87% of the carbon footprint.
Do you have, I'm just curious, do you have to give it like a GIS footprint?
Oh, it's a beautiful thing. Yeah. So
Or does it recognize?
our transmitters, yeah, it's GPS. It lays out. It mows laser stripes. You can't believe them. I could never train somebody how to mow that straight. But they cut basically a certain area almost every day. You can program it differently, certain areas at certain different times. So we've strategically placed these things near neighborhoods or near our neighbors, keep it quiet. Also we call this area down here the Devil's Hollow. Oh, I'm sorry. Down here, the Devil's Hollow. Robert Trent Jones in 1946 named it that because when he was working on the golf course, he said it was about 8 to 12 degrees hotter. And anyway, so in the Devil's Hollow, we have all these robots mowing. So it's a lighter footprint. So it can mow when the ground gets really wet. This last couple of years, last year and a half, basically, that whole area has been completely saturated. So you're having a hard time doing those light and frequent tracks in the ground. And anyway, we're just trying to kind of to keep the place operating properly so we can keep it. You mentioned the relationship with Colorado. We actually have a big process.
side, so actually through the property. To create a close relationship with some of the people there and I don't know, we have a lot of fun. Walking across by the bowl and.
Thank you.
Anyway.
So, yeah, council, I think one of the.
Oh, yeah.
Commissioners said that try to help us understand as each one comes in. How it fits in, that would be maybe each application. This is part one of 4. Some concept like that, just so we can.
Right, yeah, and that's part of the reason we wanted to come today is just to show you, here's the whole thing. Obviously, there's a lot of detail that's gotta go into all this.
Sure.
But so you're gonna, I don't know, it's probably gonna take us over the course of the next year. We're gonna be in front of you a bunch of times on it. But we'll let you know how it's part of the.
A number of the things driving these things are just the life cycle of the bunkers. Bunkers have 7 to 10 year life expectancy. They're in year 15. So a lot of it's surface work and just fixing things that are broken, much like the culverts.
Okay.
What's the timing to do all this? It's a big project, it's a really.
It's still up in the air. Yes, it's still, there's a membership vote that will happen and take place, but we're starting to.
Do a half of the 9 holes at a time or?
Again,
close the whole course down, right?
we're getting contractors in here to kind of understand that a little bit better. The powers that be will make that decision, not me.
We appreciate you coming to us early.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate you guys having us.
Any migration routes over the?
Oh my gosh, I got bluebirds for days, yeah. Seriously.
Thank you.
Yeah. For days.
Yeah, and I will, okay, council, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
We'll see you soon.
Yep. Let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll come back. Yeah, no,
I'm
we're,
leaving right before the good part.
yeah, it's okay.
I'm leaving because
Yeah.
my voice is
Welcome back.
back. All my allergies are.
All right.
You can picture my QR code. No paper, I don't use paper.
Audubon Society of Connecticut, Inc., 2325 Burr Street, map 155, parcel 44. Installation of walkways and associated drainage to facilitate accessibility to the existing aviary exhibit and associated exhibits within a regulated area. The applicant requests fee waiver of $1,500 of the permit application fee. The staff recommends approval of $1,500 fee waiver request. Oh, hello.
It's Amy.
Hold on. I don't know if it's you or if it's us. You're muted, so if you can unmute.
She's, she can run her mouse, right?
She's on mute. She's on mute. I'm unmuted.
Okay, there you
Can
go.
hear me?
Yes. Hello.
Hi, everybody. Amy Barno. I'm the director for the Fairfield region for the Connecticut Audubon Society. I don't know if Jack is still with us. I see his face there. Jack Franzen's been tuned in as well. So yeah, do you want me to speak or do you want to just
Well, you know what?
discuss?
You know what? This has been a long night. Does anybody have any issues? Okay, would anybody like to? Go ahead.
I propose that we go with staff recommendations and waive at $1,500.
That's your motion to, okay, anybody second that?
Yeah, can I just, nonprofit, right, public good is done, I've gone to courses, in other words, free stuff I just wanna make some sort of differentiation in terms of we do fee waivers and we reject some and we accept some, I just wanna get in the public record, some sort of parameter about why we might and might not, be favorably disposed or not.
Okay,
That's
excellent.
all I want on the public.
So we have a
record.
first, we have a second, we have comments as to why, all in favor?
Hi.
Aye, okay.
Good.
Good night, congrats, good night.
Thank you. Can I take 1 second?
Yes.
I just want to say this has been exceedingly eye-opening. I've been listening since 7 and I'm sure what you guys do is largely incredibly thankless. And I, for one, just want to say thank you for the diligence and the persistence in really just going into like the minutia sometimes and trying to protect even the smallest little bits of wetlands left. And I love Dabney's, attempts to try and keep the maples. I looked up that Winnipeg property while you guys were talking, and the maples there are spectacular and they're right along the lake. They're probably the only big ones that are left there. And he wants to cut them all, but there's a whole nother meeting. But anyway, thank you guys for doing it. I'm sure this is not your glory times, but I'm really appreciative of it. So thanks for all the good hard work. And thank you for the support for Audubon.
Thank you. All right.
Have a good night.
You too.
Bye.
Moving on, room number 8, bills and bond releases. Number 1, WP-22-157 Lucas Papa George, 177 High Meadow Road, construction of a new residential dwelling with in-ground pool, drainage, septic, and site work within a regulated area. This is the request of Lucas Papa George for a final bond release of $14,000. The staff recommends the partial bond release of $10,000, final $4,000 to be held for plant survivability. Guys?
Yeah, we just wanted to keep some because they had done some plantings and we just want to make sure that they survive the season.
And you're good with the 10? Okay. Any questions? Nope. I'll move it.
Yeah, another one.
Okay, Pete moves. Anybody second? Ted seconds. All in favor to release $10,000? Okay. You good? Yep. Okay, and you're good, all around. Okay, very good. Let's get to 9, legal enforcement actions. Number 1, Nicholson, Soretta, and Ball. 461, 477, 495 Lowry Boulevard, map 138, lots 167, 168, 168A. Notice of violation is issued to each property owner for deposition of material in a regulated area, which was town property, and encroachment of fencing, number 495, without a permit. What is that? The fence is numbered? Is
Residents.
that what is?
The fence encroachment applies to 495 Lolly.
Go ahead.
Three violations, dumping yard waste and lawn material over the fence onto town property. It is a regulated area. There's inland wetlands there. This is adjacent to Penfield beach parking area. And during investigation on another matter, me and other departments discovered over the fence dumping. So NOVs were issued. The homeowner at 461 was acted promptly, removed all the material, received pictures within 48 hours. So that will be resolved. That has been resolved. It did receive, the office received a call from 495 regarding the letter. I have not seen action or received correspondence from any other correspondence from 495 or 477 to date.
Okay.
I believe the NOVs gave a time frame, so that is still active.
Active, all right, we'll continue that to next month. And unless there's anything further you want, okay.
That's all.
Number 2, Tiano, 105 Deer Park Road, map 126, lot 158. Removal of trees and ground disturbance in a regulated area.
NOVs attached, but the department received a call a week or two ago regarding cutting. I went out there and homeowner was not present at the time. I spoke to the tree service who had chainsaws and bucket trucks in hand. At the time, large oaks on a steep slope of the subject property were in progress of cutting using the bucket truck, luckily not in wetland soils or mapped wetland soils, but still a regulated area adjacent, again on steep slopes. Trees that were marked and I was told that were going to be cut due to their size and over proximity and overhanging to the single family home. I said that's fine. They were marked with orange spray paint, cut and save. I agreed three trees fine. I got a call the following week that they're still out cutting. I go out, over 15 trees were cut. I issued the NOV. I did meet with the property owner. The NOV specified stabilization of the slopes with seed and hay. Required a planting plan for replacement and S&E controls. So that will be handled by a staff permit, but I believe the property owner is working on retaining professionals to submit. So
you have communication with them?
We do.
Okay.
And it's positive, so
Okay.
I expect quick action.
Number 3, Leah, 301 Palomar Drive, map 74, lot 149. Maintenance of manicured lawn beyond the limit of lawn boulders in a regulated area under active inland wetland permit number 2021-22-3.
This was a permit some of you on the agency have seen and walked. This is on Palomar near the town park. This was a tear down and rebuild of a single family home. Part of the condition of the IWP was installation of 2-man boulders and delineating limit of lawn. While I was out at an adjacent property on a flooding investigation, I noticed that the manicured lawn extended beyond the boulders into the wetlands. I had a conversation with the homeowners, very agreeable, is currently in Florida, but will be back shortly. Unaware that his landscaper is mowing beyond there. We still do have a partial bond on the permit. He's agreed to remedy the situation and plant and discontinue mowing following a conversation with the landscaper. So I expect cooperation there as well.
Okay. Number 4 is continued show cause hearing, 236 Woodside Circle LLC, 236 Woodside Circle, map 31, lot 199, historic and unresolved notice of violation dated October 23rd, 2000, and order to restore wetland and watercourse dated November 6, 2000. A recent corrective action order dated March 20th, 2024 was issued to address the above ongoing violations. At the advice of town council, staff recommends to the agency to vote to file the NOV on the town land records.
Quick update, I did meet with the brother of the current owner. The current owner right now is in experiencing a serious medical condition that's life-threatening. The brother who I met with has power of attorney and the ability to discuss the matter with me. My discussions with town attorney have been such that we will no longer at this time be pursuing acquisition of this parcel, which was the original intent. Rather that we enforce and pursue the remediation of the now historic, almost quarter century violation. I had a meeting with the brother, Mr. Petrucci, this week, and we discussed possibilities pending the outcome of his brother medically. It looks like he will be maybe making the decision whether to sell the parcel to a new owner at a discounted market rate to pursue submission of the applications instead of him as the power of attorney taking over the remediation. So
Did he make that comment that we might just sell?
yes,
Did he say something along those lines?
yes, and that's totally an option, and that was
We've had these issues before. Oh, I didn't know that was an issue here. So I really would like to get something on the land records then.
correct. Yeah, and that's exactly the recommendation from council to do so, even though historically those are on the records. I think him and I at least agreed that that was an appropriate move by the agency to have a new NOV on the land records.
Anybody need any more to talk about anything? Or anybody want to do a motion or anything?
I'll move to file NOV on the land records.
I'll second it.
Also, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Great. All right, I'm sorry, Tim, anything further? No.
That is all. I obviously wish his brother health.
Yeah.
If this comes back to us, either in the form of consideration for a transaction to take title, or possibly under new ownership, them filing. I will point out for the record that he did produce drawings and engineering plans that were at a quick glance, very adequate. There were proposals from 2017 for Gabion, removal of the wall and Gabion baskets instead. He has a thorough planting plan with native shrubs, trees, and herbaceous, so the work's been done and relatively new. So I think depending on what his decisions are and where life takes his family, we'll definitely see this again, whether it's enforcement or otherwise.
Okay, good. Commissioners, anything further you want to add? No. Okay, number 5, Minardi, 120 Grace Street, map 79, lot 517. Deposition of material and regulated activities within a regulated area, including Gypsy Springs open space without a permit. Made contact with property owner and working on a resolution. Number 5.
I had open space, my conservation staff stopped by this morning. We were dealing with another matter on Beaver Street. Confirmed that this was the one where the tenants were moving out. Materials are still on town property, so I need to follow up with the owner who lives in Monroe. So I will do that and send another letter if necessary.
All right, number 6, continued Offenburg, 1865 Sturgis Highway, map 253, lot 33, regulated activities within a regulated area without a permit. multiple notice of violation issued November 29th, 2023, have gone unresponsive to multiple addresses. The department met with Land Tech on April 24, 2024, who will submit a permit for corrective action. Oh, okay.
So finally, some activity. I was contacted by Mr. Kerry, who is here tonight from Land Tech. The one, went 0 for 4 with 4 different addresses were unresponsive. Come to find out, as suspected, the owner does not live there. Owns it, but doesn't use the property most of the entire year. He did receive the one letter I sent uncertified, which makes sense mail wise. Since the agenda was published, I did receive a planting plan with some specifications of detailing invasive removal of sod to a tune of a 20 or 30 foot buffer, planting of native species and others. So that is now moving forward. We'll expect to receive a application for certificate, I think very soon. So be able to move on from that one.
Number 7, continued Blanco 144 Bennett Street, map 26, lot 166. Significant activities without a permit, including deposition of material within a regulated area, water courts, and disturbance of the natural and indigenous character of the land without sediment and erosion controls. Currently working with town attorney and property owner to submit an inland wetlands permit per court order. Note, recent motion for extension request was filed to the court. Submit an IWP by May 7, 2024, and paid town's legal fees by February 6, 2025. So we don't know anything until next week, so unless you have anything to say, that's really what it is, right?
Correct. To date, I have
Gotta get
haven't had any recent contact by any of the professionals that had initially began to ask questions and but as far as submission of any materials, application materials, the department has not received any to date.
We go to number 8, Norwood. 246 lot 5C. Significant activities, deposition of material, wetland diversion, etc. Without a permit. Property owner has retained counsel and scheduled to meet with the Conservation Department on April 29, 2024. Court date scheduled for June 6, 2024. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I had a positive and extensive Zoom meeting with the violator, the property owner's counsel, John Nuff, and this week, Monday. We spoke for 30 to almost 40 minutes about what's happened and where we expect the application to go. As far as thoroughness as it relates to inland wetlands and the Conservation Commission. They expect to have an application submitted to the department for agency's receipt for the June meeting. So we shall see. I've not received anything, obviously, since that was a few days ago, but they are planning to continue to retain Redness and Mead and William Kenny Associates as their expert team.
Okay. So this is some. Yeah. That's a lot of damage. Okay. Roman numeral 10, staff report. Number 1, reports from the Conservation Department. A, CWC permit applications received 6. B, notice of violation issued 5. C, bonds released 3.
That's pretty accurate. We've been pretty busy.
Okay. Sure. And number 2, site walks for May. What do we need to see?
Pansy, 220 Pansy would be one of them.
Good day.
Is that it? Is that the only one?
That would be the only
Yeah.
one unless the members want to revisit anything that is continued or questionable or seeking more, information. That would be the only one.
Yeah, we have a meeting the 22nd.
First time
This is May.
The 15th, yeah.
How does our conservation look?
There will be a conservation, I expect a conservation meeting this
Okay.
month.
So then, maybe the 22nd,
Right.
the 22nd at, what do we do, 6?
6:30.
30? Yeah, it should be later, 6:30 on the 22nd.
Right.
Okay,
Notice.
and if something comes in that we need to, just let me know and maybe we can add the other property. Okay. All right. Roman numeral 11, other. Anybody have anything they'd like to talk about? The OCD? Okay.
We set up a commission to liaise with the other people in town on the POCD. It's got a lot of activity right now, forestry committee. So right now, the POCD has been written by developers pretty much. So nobody with any eye towards sustainability has had a lot of input into, what goes into it. And there are folks on planning and zoning who want that kind of input. Forestry wants that kind of input, and I think we should have that input as well, as a commission. But I wasn't here the day we set up the committee to do that, so I don't know who's on the committee, but because I met some of the people from planning and zoning, I'm getting emails about when are we gonna meet on the POCD. I can't set up any meeting. I'm not, I don't know what the committee is.
I believe that was established under conservation.
Okay.
Do we know who it is though? I don't remember.
When I was going through records, minutes this morning on another matter, I did find the minutes that Ted had volunteered, but I recall Kate raising your hand, but I don't remember who else.
I'm happy to be part of it, but I didn't set up the committee, so I didn't want to speak out of turn or.
Well, I think, no, it was set up and I guess it's, if you're on it and Kate's on it, but do you go for it? Yeah.
All right, I'll contact Kate and
go for it. Yeah.
I can look through minutes to see if it lists any other members' names, but.
Yeah,
And don't forget, contractor responsibility committee here on that too.
Maybe it wasn't Kate.
What committee?
And now that-
Well, no,
Now that we
I
have
don't
the
recall.
governor.
but I do know that I do.
Delighted, it's time to get going, folks.
I know.
All right, I will reach out to Kate and we'll probably set up something with Emmeline. I don't know if you want to be part of that, Tim. I think you might.
Yeah, I could liaise at least.
Yeah, and well, and also I'll
Join
get Tiff Minder from forestry as well. I mean, since I sit on both committees and there's some good resources there.
Thank you for doing that. I'm gonna say quickly for Earth Day, it was a great event, great turnout. Thank you all for participating and being there, those of you that were there. And hopefully it was a good event for you guys as well.
Yeah, and we also got some good visibility in the open spaces because of the Hug a Tree campaign, the green signs.
Yeah.
That I put up at Lake Mohegan, Richardson, and Ash Creek, and
someone at the library too, Fairfield Woods.
well, all over all the schools. I did all the open space, but I didn't do all the open spaces. I can only walk so many. But I also did Hoyden's Hill.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. So I gotta go collect them now. So I gotta go walk.
Well, pick them up.
Get you to blaze the trails while you're.
Yeah, I'm blazing a lot of trails.
Anything else from anybody? Any commissioners?
No.
Yeah, you guys good?
Good. Good night.
Alright, well.
Sounds like.
All right.